All right, guys. So I have been trying desperately to write you guys shorter stories. I'm shooting for that 45-minute, hour mark. And this is actually one of the shorter stories that I have written, but this episode got away from me pretty quick. I blame it mostly on the fact that the boys hit the whiskey like a freight train. We were getting ready to go spearfishing that afternoon, and I think everyone was just warming up for that boat ride. But as much fun as we had, I did do my best to edit out a lot of the rambling and we'll call it wild accusations that came from one particular member of this episode. But anyways, if you're a big fan of SIG Sauer or a big fan of firearms history or just learning as much as you can about the sport and the culture, this is a great episode for you. SIG Sauer has an awesome story, how they came about, and I learned an absolute ton writing this episode. Did you know that SIG, yes, the SIG, SIG from SIG Sauer, is an acronym? Yeah, it stands for something. I was today years old when I learned that. Did you know that they actually started out making something far different and far bigger than firearms at all? And maybe most importantly of all, we cover exactly how they whooped Glock's butt in the US Army's XM17 modular handgun contract. That is a pretty interesting tale, and we also cover why Glock sued over that loss. And to be honest with you, when you examine the evidence and look at some of the investigation, they were right. They got screwed. They got gypped. Now, I'm not saying that Glock should have won. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there was no way to tell what the best choice was for that particular handgun. So anyways, Glock definitely did get a little screwed. So we're going to cover all of that and unfortunately much more on this episode of the Rifle Media Podcast. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. 2, 1. All right. What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Owen Walski, again here today at the Rifle Media Podcast. Today, I'm joined by 3 hosts. First up is Mike Harris. How you feeling, man?
Good. How about yourself?
Good. Does it feel weird being on a podcast like this?
First time, but hey, there's a first for everything.
That's good. I'm glad you're first. You never forget your first. Even though sometimes you might want to. All right, next up, Matt Barker, the man and the legend. What's up, dude?
Not much.
Liking that shirt?
Thank you.
Looking
I
sharp.
like it too.
More buttons.
More buttons? up or down?
No, down.
Less
down.
buttons.
Less
Less
buttons.
Less
I
buttons.
can do one, I think. I'll drink more and we'll see how the podcast progresses.
That's the breathalyzer right there.
Show it
so far
off.
down.
Show it off.
Show it off.
All right, next up is Matt Mandela. How you doing, man?
Oh, pretty good.
Good. I'm going to ask you again, how are you feeling?
With my hands.
I absolutely...
Handshake.
Hands above the table. Hands above the table. All right, sweet. Good. So, like I said before, we talked earlier. Today we were talking about the history of SIG Sauer. We're going to cover a whole bunch of stuff like, how they started, what they made, and how they beat Glock in the modular handgun contract. So, I always do opening questions for everybody, and I'll start with you, Mike. What do you think of SIG Sauer as a gun brand?
As a gun brand?
Yeah.
I like them. They make good stuff. It's interesting to see their shift. Well, I guess their recent shift from the consumer market to more military. I mean, they've always had their hands in the military, but with the NGSW program that they won recently and everything else that I think they have like the SMG, the handgun, now the light machine gun, and the battle rifle for troops. Feels like they have a lot of cooks in the kitchen on monopolizing what our forces are using. Not to say that's a bad thing. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff overlap between that to have one company kind of more or less managing all of the rifle systems or platforms that they're using. But it's interesting to see how they're able to, I guess, beat the competition.
Yeah.
And kind of focus more on the military side than necessarily consumer market.
So you touched on something single-sourced and how they're the single source for the majority of the military's weapons. And so we're going to touch on how that was pretty highly criticized, believe it or not. So, Marcus, what do you think of SIG? I know you're a fan. Your first gun was a 226?
Yeah, it was a West German 226.
Do you remember when it was made?
88.
Okay, so was it the bent steel slide with the breech block installed on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the one made of iron.
Yeah,
Like it'll last like 500,000 rounds.
Okay. Yeah, so we're going to talk about that a little bit today.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that's where the 226 started, and it changed for a very specific reason. What do you think of SIG?
I mean, I own 2 SIG pistols, and those are my favorite.
What two do you own?
226 and then the 938.
Okay.
That's my carry.
Didn't you get that in a parking lot?
Which one?
The 938?
No.
Oh, which one? You bought multiple guns in parking lots?
I was like, which parking lot?
No, one I got from the ATF dealer, and then the other one I thought I bought from you.
Chris. I thought it was Sam or Chris.
Oh, it was Chris. Yeah.
It was Chris in the parking lot of a business we're not going to name.
Did I buy it in parking lot?
I'm almost positive because he tried to sell it to the store I worked for, and we gave him a crappy deal, and he went out in the parking lot and sold it to you. I swear that's how that worked.
I thought
Which is legal in Ohio.
Correct.
Yes.
Legal. Not. Yeah.
He came to the house, I thought.
Okay.
Shut up.
Either way, he came to me first, and we gave him a crappy deal, and he left. So, anyways, all right. So, me personally, I'm whatever on them. I like the 226. I love the M400. I love the what was the SSG 3000, that bolt action they had for a while.
No, that's Steyr.
I think it was. There was some cross contamination in it.
Or
But it
was
was
Sauer only.
It came from Germany. It came overseas, and then we screwed something up with the. We sold gun. They sold the American arm of SIG sold guns to the cartels in Mexico, and that's when their SIG or the German government was like, yeah, no more imported guns to America, and that's when you couldn't get it anymore. But anyways, I'm pretty neutral on SIG. I'm not a big deal. So SIG started out as many different companies before it became SIG Sauer we know today. The origin started in 1853 as, and I'm going to butcher this several times, Schweizerreich Wagenfabrik. We will refer to them as SWF, so I can keep my sanity while we read this. They are a Swiss railway car manufacturer that eventually became the biggest supplier of rail cars and other rolling stock to the Swiss Federal Railways. So they started out making train cars, not guns, which I thought was super weird. I'm not sure if they ever made any rail cars in the United States, but they were a big deal overseas. So in 1859, Switzerland's Federal Ministry of Defense was looking for a new rifle. SWF pulled their engineering talents and developed the Prelaz Bernard 1860 single-shot breech-loading rifle. It was quickly adopted by the Swiss military, and SWF was awarded the contract for 30,000 rifles. So this was technically the first gun that SIG ever made. This was also supposedly the first gun to use a metallic cartridge. Does that sound right to any of you?
No knowledge.
I don't believe so.
This is like the most disputed fact on the internet. I'm not kidding you. Like, there's so many different stories about who was the first to use a metallic cartridge.
Supposedly back in Napoleonic times, I don't know if it was metallic or it was paper.
Paper for sure.
But it was a breech loading paper with self-contained primer.
All right, so I'll check that out. So now that, SWF, not SIG yet, was in the gun business, once they had the notoriety from the contract of serving the Swiss military.
Oh, quick question. What was it chambered in? Did we talk about that? Did I miss that?
I didn't include it. It's a weirdo cartridge.
Okay. So like general family, like 30 cal, like what do we?
No, this is like before. This is big bore stuff.
So like, okay, this is back.
Because 1860s, you're talking like 58 or like
still musket-esque technology.
Because what was the one, the Berthier? It was like the first like bolt action, tube fed. It's black powder, and they're massive bullets.
Okay,
right?
so we're talking like 50 cal larger.
They're like 45 to 50 cal.
I would say 45.
You think that did they have they had like sabots by then, right? Or are they still like musket balls?
Shoot. It wasn't sabot technology in the rifle. It was a rifled barrel. I know that.
Yeah. But like the actual was it conical shaped?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. It was.
Yep.
I saw a picture of the round. I want to say 45 by 65 something.
Okay.
I don't know. It was a big round. It definitely was. So anyways, once they had that contract and all the notoriety from that, they changed their name to SIG. Not SIG Arms, not SIG Sauer, just SIG, S-I-G. Now, that SIG is the same SIG in the SIG Sauer name today. Do you know that SIG actually stands for something? It's not technically their name. I thought it was just some guy named
it's an acronym?
It's an acronym. And I thought it was just some guy named Siggy, and they were like, oh, okay, SIG, that's what I thought. No, it actually stands an abbreviation. Can you guess? If you can give me the German abbreviation for what this, I'll give you a SIG handgun out of my collection.
No, I cheated and
If
read
you can
ahead,
guess.
so I
Did
can't.
you really?
Well, you put the
I
paper
caught
down.
him. I
and
caught him. I said, Mike, don't
You
read
didn't
it.
give me
Okay,
the rules.
disqualified.
Hey, I self-disclosed.
Mike,
Come
you
on,
shouldn't have
come
said
on.
anything. You
I mean,
could've got
even
a
if
free
you
sig.
read it, I'd be
Oh, I
curious.
can't pronounce that.
Okay, I was gonna say,
no clue.
go for it.
It would be something like Swiss Industries
Close.
or Swiss. It wouldn't be intellectual. It'd be something industries of.
You're close.
It'll be like Gerwehr or something. Because G is like gun is like Gerwehr or something, right?
I can see my
From the Storm
MPX
Gewehr.
leaving with Barker today. Okay, so not close, but not there. Your chance.
You know, I figured it was going to be like Gesundheit or something.
Yeah, so the guy sneezed in the office. Like, oh, Kazuna, okay.
Yeah,
we
Siggy
found our
sneeze,
G.
yeah.
We found our G.
We're writing that one down.
All right, so it stands for Schweizerische Industrie Gesellschaft, or Swiss Industrial Company, if you're uncultured American swine, like me. So it stands for Swiss Industrial Company. Yeah, or Swiss Industrial Group. I'm sorry. So
I should have known
yeah,
that.
the direct translation is company, but it's actually in German it's group or whatever.
Okay.
So, yeah. So that's. I don't think a lot of people know that it's actually an acronym, not just some abbreviated name of some dude named Siggy. So now focus.
Wait, hold on.
Go for
Rewind real quick.
Rewinding.
It's why is this a German translation if they're Swiss?
Boom.
Good question.
Boom. Right there. Mike with the details.
You know what? I think some parts of Switzerland speak German. I think some parts of them speak French.
Oh.
So
I mean, they do.
They definitely
They're
do.
right next to each other.
Yeah.
I mean,
Huh. Okay.
So yeah, that I know that's German for
I
sure.
mean, unlike Americans that are
So
one.
I don't speak Switzerland. I've got family in Switzerland. They both speak
Yeah.
French and German. So
and SIG today, they're German,
correct,
right? Like
Oh.
they're made. Well, I'm jumping ahead here.
Yeah,
But
you're right. There's a reason why they moved to Germany, and it's a pretty it will make sense when I tell you.
okay. Okay.
Same reason. I'll give you a hint. It's the same reason they're not involved in any wars, and I'll leave it there. All right, so they were focused mainly on train cars. Even though they had the military contract and were working with the military, they focused mainly on train cars and didn't jump into guns right away. They actually made train cars up to 1985.
Wow.
That's not that long ago.
So they're still chugging around out there.
Yeah.
Probably.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. Yeah.
Probably not in East Palestine though.
Hopefully not. Yeah. But in 1947, SIG competed for another Swiss government contract, but this time it was for a handgun, not a rifle. This was SIG's first official handgun, and they still make it today. Can you guess what model it is?
The P210.
Nailed it. Good job. So that
I've shot an original 1950s P210.
holy cow, that's awesome. First of all, let's talk a little about the SIG 210. Like, it's an amazing gun. Like, very, very well put together. So they actually didn't design this from the ground up. They actually improved a design from a French guy named Charles Pateur, who based his design heavily on John Browning's high power. So basically, they copied a guy who copied a guy, but made their copy way better. So here's my opinion on the 210. It's a great market opportunity for them to take that design, double stack it, red dot it, and put a rail on it.
It's
Be a
Is
2011
it a,
killer.
full steel frame?
Full steel frame, single stack, super high bore axis, and low
Wait,
reciprocating
low bore
slide.
axis?
Low bore axis.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
they just. It took them, 70 years to do a modernized version of the P210 carry,
Yeah.
which it still doesn't have a fucking left-handed safety.
Well, not all of us are lefties, so
But I'm
you
just
can- you
saying-
can stay in your corner.
I'm just saying, of all the things, the easiest thing to add is a goddamn left-handed safety, and they don't do it. And actually, the price point for it wasn't that bad, I didn't think.
It's like 900.
I thought it was 13.
Oh, maybe.
But when you're talking P210 money,
True.
you're in a different class of, because an original 50s or 60s P210 is 4,500 to 5,500.
Oh, I'd believe it. Absolutely. And they were import only. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so the chances of them doing that are never.
Pretty slim. Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about how they botched the 320 and how it took them like 10 years to make it striker fired and then tried to tell everybody it was new. So
didn't.
I totally believe you on that.
No, it was a P250.
It was a 250. And if you look at the back of... Anyways, we'll talk about that.
So was this still in the mentality of like big bore, like 45 ACP?
No, it's
9mm.
9mm.
9mm? Okay.
Yep, it's 9mm.
So they didn't start making guns till after the
Yeah,
war.
correct. Yeah. 1947 was
This
in
is
there.
after World War II when the 9mm really came out.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you had your P-38s and all that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyways, the Swiss police and military used the 210 for about 25 years. They then sought a replacement for the 210, and SIG responded with the 220. The Swiss police, once again, loved the SIG handgun and quickly adopted it. Now, SIG wanted to export their guns and sell around the world. But those pesky Swiss folk had some pretty tight export laws for their weapons. Remember Switzerland's whole "we're neutral" stance? Yeah, so they wouldn't allow them to supply to any country that could use them in war, right? Because that would be considered taking a stance or, picking a side of the war. So I think that had something to do with it. However, to get around these laws, SIG decided to partner with a foreign partner for production and distribution, which circumvented the law. This is when SIG purchased a German company by the name of J.P. Sauer and Son, right? That's what my shirt says?
Yes.
Yep. Good, I should know what I'm wearing.
They were good rifle makers back in the day.
And shotguns.
And
They made
shotguns.
very high-end shotguns. Still do, actually.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
So the resulting company was SIG Sauer, now based out of Germany.
Huh.
Yep. This is where the name that we have today came from, although it's been changed slightly along the way to SIG Arms, SIG Sauer Inc., before finally settling on SIG Sauer USA in 2007. Now, following setting up in Germany, SIG Sauer decided to set up shop in the United States in 1985, shortly after competing in the XM9. That's way before the XM17, service pistol contract and trials for the US Army's new sidearm. They designed the P226 specifically for this contract. They modified the P220. They did this to conform with the test requirements. The 226 performed well, tying for first place, but ultimately lost the competition. Can you guess who beat them? And then can you guess why? I feel like you're cheating and reading over my shoulders.
No, I just
It was Beretta beat him. It was for cost.
Nailed it.
Because the Navy went with the 226 because they have more money than everyone else.
Ooh, dude. Like, I do hours of research. I feel like you could just, write half of this by memory with some whiskey and some time. Like,
it's just useless knowledge. Let's be honest.
It's useful now.
I mean, there's little nuggets that you can contribute to,
Little, not
Yeah.
not many, Mike.
Hey, hyper specific knowledge that probably doesn't
apply
apply
anywhere else,
to most other
anywhere
people.
else in life. Just
Yeah, for only specific groups of people, it's
very
awesome.
very specific.
You can entertain a bunch of gun nuts for a long time.
Yeah, I heard Barker works well with little nuggets. So.
well, I mean, I guess the nice part about having the Navy is the Navy SEALs. So they have their own little.
For
nice.
years, the 226 was the
Oh yeah,
gun to have just based off the Navy SEALs.
we're gonna talk a lot about that today. Good one. Very good. So anyways, remember that SIG lost on cost because I think they remembered that when it got to their next chance at the sidearm contract.
Yeah, but sometimes that shoots the government in the foot.
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like if you count how many times the government shoots themselves in the foot, I mean,
They won't have any feet.
They don't have any legs. You don't have any legs. All right, so the 226 may not have been chosen by the Army, but it did impress some people in the Navy. Have you guys ever heard of the Navy SEALs?
Who they?
Apparently they're pretty cool or something. But yeah, they really like the 226, and in fact, the SEALs did not like the Beretta. Now, there are many working theories as to why the SEALs did not like the Beretta M9. The best theory that I found was that the SEALs had an incident where a slide separated on a Beretta and struck a SEAL operator in the face. There is a report released by the GAO, General Accounting Office, that shows the Navy had 3 separate slide failures under operational conditions that show recorded injuries for all 3. The report further called out specific injuries, such as face lacerations requiring stitches, broken teeth in one case, and significant chest bruising, whatever that means. But anyways, imagine taking a slide to the face from a Beretta. The back of that slide is pointed.
It's like a harpoon. I'm just trying to think, how would that work though?
What is it like? Fracture? So they milled down the slide significantly, so most of the barrel's exposed. So are we talking about stress fractures,
Yes.
right where the breached extractor firing pin,
Nailed it.
So you're saying the
milled
slide?
through.
Right on that cut.
So you're saying
So
that the slide cut came in half?
pretty much. So where the
Okay, that
where the
makes a lot
hood
more
stops,
sense.
the
Yeah.
rear hood stops, there's those 2 squares milled into the slide for the locking block to come in. It would crack right along there.
And I don't want to speak badly of Beretta, but I think that they still sometimes have that problem. Oh, you have a little diagram.
Yeah, I have the little diagram. It's going to get posted on the screen for the viewers to see, but
Which
you can see those.
I think there are still some competitive shooters who keep running into those issues with Beretta like M9 variants that after a certain round count, they have the stress fractures at the same spot.
The A3s and A4s are supposed to take care of that.
But no, and that's because they go with the G slide.
Right.
The G slide
only.
Yes, the G slide is a little bit beefier cut, I think, for some reason. I don't know why, but
remember the Brigadier?
That's what it is.
That was one of Beretta's responses to the breaking or cracking slides. Was the Brigadier slides?
I think the Brigadier slide and the G slide are the same, maybe.
But you could only. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you could only get a Brigadier in 40 cal. I think that's the truth. Anyways,
do you know how many rounds like it would take?
I think I have.
Oh, it's thousands.
It was thousands.
It's what was it?
That's a lot.
Someone has said is like 30,000 or 40 something.
But,
something where the average user would never see
it.
Well,
a competitive shooter, they'll go through that in a year.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, your SEALs would go through that easily.
But
like you would
training or something, maybe.
Yeah, but like if that happened,
especially if they only had if they only had like 5 or 10
That's
in
what
their
it is.
armory, and they were letting them train with it to like, hey, which one do we want? Yep. That's gonna run through so many different hands, so many different like round counts.
Yeah.
And it's kind of good though, is it can elevate those failures more quickly.
Absolutely.
But
best stress test you could get.
Yeah.
Yep. So that theory made a lot of sense to me. And I know that early model Berettas had slide separation problems. That's why there's recoil buffers in some of them, the Brigadier slides, all that stuff. I'll post a picture of the where the failure points are up on the screen for people to see. But the slide separation happened in 2 cuts in the slide to accommodate the locking lug. The Army never figured out exactly why the slides were failing, but were able to prove that all the broken slides came from Italy. All the slides that were manufactured in the U.S. never had any problems. So the Army started to only accept guns made entirely in the U.S., and it was assumed that there was an issue with the alloy, heat treat, or manufacturing process in Italy that was causing the problem. So they never figured it out. What do you guys think of the 92 series? I know you're a fan of them, aren't you?
I have one. I need to put it back together.
I have 2. I love both of mine.
I don't have any Berettas.
Didn't you make sweet passionate love to Sam's? It's got like lower springs, fancy safety sights.
Yeah, so he bought a bunch of parts to soup it up and then didn't know how to put it together. So I threw it all in, and it worked really well. I mean, we put in I think
it was Wilson Combat spring kits and stuff like that, right?
No, he wanted it wasn't the combat because he wanted
the competition,
go fast. Yeah, low drag.
No, I'm saying Wilson Combat, the brand.
Oh, yeah,
make a spring kit and all that stuff for it.
And he put in like a stainless steel or titanium guide rod, all sorts of stuff.
It was a nice gun. I shot
it. No, I mean it was really easy to work on.
I thought you had a 92, and I thought you were a big fan. For some reason, I thought I remember that.
My only complaint is that they're sharp.
Sharp?
The trigger guards are sharp. There's a bunch of sharp angles on them.
Yeah. I guess that's why you wouldn't get hit in the face with a slide from one,
and they're also a very beefy hand grip.
Yeah, well the A3 and A4s are supposed to be slimmer. Yeah, do you own one? Shoot one?
I've shot one years ago, but I don't remember anything from it.
Cool. I want you to know that I have a joke right here.
Stay away
I'm
from
not
those.
gonna. Yeah, okay.
I stay away from them.
All right. Anyways, all right. Back to the 226. So either way, the SEALs found the failures of the Beretta unacceptable and wanted to work with SIG to develop something that worked specifically around their missions. This collaboration led to the development of the Mark 24. So not the Mark 25. The Mark 24 was different from the original P226. It had a phosphate coating on all the internals to fight corrosion from seawater and harsh environments. It also had a stainless steel slide. This was a new thing for SIG. Prior to the Mark 24, the slide was simple folded steel with a stainless steel breech block. This was weird to me. The slide had a stainless steel breech block that needed replaced every 5,000 rounds. Yeah, that was the official service interval. Imagine having to change your breech block every season of USPSA, or you'd go through that.
It'd be 5 times a season.
Yeah, exactly. Like at least 3 for the average competitive shooter.
And you're probably doing 316 stainless because that holds the best against saltwater corrosion.
Oh yeah, I would believe it. I'd believe it. So yeah, they completely redid the slide, all that stuff. I guess in some cases, thank God they don't build them like they used to, because I wouldn't want that.
I'll tell you what, I have one. And I don't think people change the breech blocks in them.
So my Glock 44 aftermarket slide has a replaceable breech block.
I was gonna say my 226. I guarantee you the breech block has never been replaced.
Yeah, it probably shoots fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, just think how fast that would go through if it was just regular steel or anything, what they usually do.
Well,
it's like salt water.
Yeah, I mean, but you put on a good... Well, okay, so granted, we're talking 30, 40 years ago when this came out. So technology is way and far surpassed anything we had back then. Like, I understand why they did it that way, because phosphate coatings back then, you know, they were good. But the whole metallurgical, you know, being able to prevent corrosion science was still very early on in its infancy of being able to like come up with like these super crazy coatings. Like, you know, we have the titanium nitride now and all sorts of crazy stuff, which that just wasn't a thing 40 years ago.
Well, like I shoot with a bunch of guys who are in their 70s, and
like
and,
what
and
we had
they
bluing, like
maybe.
bluing was
Well,
like the big treatment back then.
But I mean, like they don't understand that I don't clean my guns,
Well,
and you know, like chrome plating or like stuff like that, or like chrome lined barrels.
Was what
However, wait, but you know, like they're like, oh, you need to like swab out your barrel. I'm like, what? Nope.
All right, so now the Mark 24 was used up to 2011, so right about when we all started going to college, me for the second time. Yes, that recently, it was updated to use night sights and the mill standard 1930 pick rail up front instead of some weird rounded SIG proprietary design. Have you ever seen one of those? They look weird. They're very different than a normal rail. And that takes us up to the Mark 25 that we all know and love today. Yeah.
What was the night sights back then?
It was tritium.
Tritium.
Yeah, do you know tritium is actually
Radioactive.
But it's a hydrogen. It's a
Yeah.
form of hydrogen.
It's H3.
H3. Yeah, I didn't know that up until recently.
Even up until last night when we were listening to Bob Lazar.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That must be why that stuck in my head. Yeah. That was an interesting ride home while I was listening to Aliens and everybody was asleep.
Well, I was listening.
I was awake because I knew. Wait, where you heard it from?
Yeah, I don't know. I kept trying to sleep, but driving is hard to do while you're asleep. Anyways, so if you like the Mark 25, thank Beretta for their exploding 92s, okay? That's what gave us the Mark 25. Yeah, I'm a big fan. My Mark 25 that I have would be the gun that I would pick if I had to pick one gun. Like, it would be the gun. It's easy to use, decocker, bulletproof, mags are easy to find, 15 rounds. It's not the easiest to shoot fast accurately, but you could shoot it reasonably fast accurately. So, do you have a Mark 25 or a 226? You have a 226.
I have a 226.
You have a 226.
I have an OG folded slide 226.
Yeah, hang on to that. That thing's cool.
I think the only SIG I have is a 938 or the micro 1911s.
That's 938 or
938. Yep.
I love the decocker on the 226.
Same here.
Oh man,
Same here. Easy to use. I've got the short reset trigger in mine as well, which is worth every penny. All right. So, fun fact: SIG almost died. Yeah, they almost went out of business. I'm not sure a lot of people know that, but they did not. They were like almost going to get bought out.
What year was that?
So, all right. So, SIG had seen some success with the Mark 25 and the military purchases that came with it, but it was not all smooth sailing for SIG. In fact, SIG was on the verge of bankruptcy in 2004. There were many factors that led to this. First off was competition from Glock. Yes, they were on a meteoric rise in the 90s and early 2000s, not to mention the Beretta M9 and 92 FSs were cheaper and had the prestige of being the military's firearm of choice. Slide separations aside, of course. So SIG was up against some stiff competition and was having a hard time coming up with new products to compete against them. Another major factor was that the U.S. government was cutting back on its military spending. This reduced the income from the Mark 24 and the M11, which was SIG's. They were the only two.
It's like a compact 226.
Correct. Yeah, and those were the only two major military contracts that SIG had at the time.
And was SIG primarily military contracts only at this time? Like, did they have a civilian market? Or were they going the whole HK route of just F you, we don't want
ever since the 220. Ever since the 220, they had a commercial market.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's 100% right. So I would say the military was very small.
Really?
Out of their sales. So they were relying on the consumer market, which they just weren't doing well.
Well, and 2004, I mean, I wasn't in the guns then, but that was still during the assault weapon ban, and everything was really hard to come by regardless.
Absolutely. So yeah, small.
Capacities. Well, I mean, during the assault weapons ban, you saw 45 come into play because if you could only hold 10 rounds, you might as well make it bigger.
Yep.
Wow, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Because that's where 10 round 1911 max
stop
came
them
from.
Power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Boomer, take it easy over there. Yeah, so the M11, that came like shortly afterwards. It was issued to some pilots, I believe, in the Navy only. I could be wrong about that. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I love M11s. M11s. That's on my list of nice-to-have guns. I thought you had a 226 and an M11.
I wish I had an M11.
Okay. Anyways, so in addition to these challenges, SIG had recently opened up a new, very large factory, and the company had a very hard time transitioning to this new factory. It was located in several different parts around the eastern United States and had kind of trouble moving them all into one location. And as a result, SIG Sauer's workforce dwindled to just 130 employees, and the company posted a $20 million loss at the end of 2004.
Here's a question. Ooh. Is SIG out of Germany by now and they're all U.S.?
No.
Or is at this point they're shared?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Well, I think
not separate yet.
The government contracts, all that manufacturing has to be through the U.S.
Mm-hmm. I think that's accurate too.
I heard that. I don't know if that's still true.
Yeah. So it wasn't always like that. They switched over at some point in time. It had to be sourced from the U.S., and they also gave bonus points on bidding contracts if you were small businesses or 100% American-based. So I don't think you could... I don't think there was any problem with like somebody having different locations around the globe, but I think you had to be...
Whatever was being provided to the military had to come from something in the U.S.
That was a big push for like Beretta USA.
Yeah, and I mean like
Glock USA.
Yeah, look
Absolutely.
at Glock, look at CZ, look at is it Kalashnikov? Do they have a USA branch?
I think so.
They do now.
Yeah.
And
so
I
like
think that's
all these
purely just so they can sell in the U.S.
Yep.
Well, that's a lot. Kalashnikov, they banned. You can't import AK-47s.
Well, and
anymore.
that's one of the reasons
they
why
can
they
make
came
them here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There's a bunch of, and that stuff changes. It's so fluid over the years.
It's crazy.
The small business clause happened in like 2011 and 2012.
That's dead on.
And
That's dead on.
And it drove away like some of the major components for like major companies to like bid stuff. And they were like, you would have new small businesses come in and bid stuff and just win just because it's small business.
Well, that's where that movie with Jonah Hill. And,
War Dogs.
War Dogs.
Yeah.
That's where it comes into.
Absolutely. Those guys were. That's such a good movie.
But like
really
it would
is.
kill other programs. Like it would kill other major projects that they would have because like you would have a recompete and you would have somebody from the government get mad at like the people that would always win or like own the whatever legacy part and give it to somebody else.
Man, you know a lot about this stuff for being a carpenter.
Yeah. Some light reading.
Some light reading. Anyways, there were
Lots
significant...
of podcasts, you know.
Yeah, there you go. You did your research ahead of time. There were significant rumors that Ruger, Smith & Wesson, and the Freedom Group were going to acquire SIG during this time.
The Freedom Group was around in...
I know, right?
What?
I know, right? I thought that was
remember
weird, too.
that was like a shit storm, the Freedom Group, when?
When
2015?
haven't they
Yeah, I was trying to say
been?
the same thing.
Oh, you're talking about 2015.
No, I mean
okay.
like when like all of a sudden they're buying like everybody.
Yes. Could you imagine a Mark 25 made by Ruger?
it'd be a honky,
Dude,
hunky.
yeah. Exactly. You could use it to fix cars and shoot people. Yeah.
It'd be like a 4-pound handgun.
Exactly.
Biceps on this guy.
Hey, it would be like P++++++
It would be
rated.
like, imagine if like the Desert Eagle was 9mm instead of 50 cal. Same size, same everything, just smaller bore. That's what the Ruger.
That's exactly how that would be. That's exactly how that would be. So SIG was actually able to turn this all around, and this was due by the help of one man, and a man by the name of Ron Cohen, who is now, he's still the current CEO of SIG. Ron was born and raised in Israel, served in the Israeli Defense Force for 6 years. He left the military and earned a business degree and worked in the Israeli defense industry before moving to the U.S. in 1997. Ron actually worked for Ruger, and he actually worked for Smith & Wesson before he worked for SIG. And I'm telling you, all these companies just trade people. It's just, once you're in, you're just in this vortex.
Well, I was going to say, as engineers, if you want to get in, once you're in, you're in. It's just like the automotive industry.
Yeah, that's about right, too.
Once you're in, it's hard to get into, though.
So he was like IWI is their international
So
branch.
it'd be IMI.
IMI. So he was like IMI once he was out of the military?
I looked that up and couldn't find anything.
Couldn't find anything, yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I think IMI converted to IWI.
So that's their I thought IWI was their international branch, though.
I think IMI is no longer.
I don't know.
I thought they changed all that. I don't know.
Yeah, me neither.
But I think that's
It's
one
the same
thing.
company.
Yeah,
But
more or less. Yep.
That's one thing Israel does right is like you have to serve 2 years.
Oh,
to,
you mean
the
like
military?
Yeah.
I
So like
think
that gives him his background,
conscription.
like some background.
A credential. It
Yeah.
gives them a good
Yeah.
credential.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Ron was able to tackle one of the biggest problems SIG was having at the time, which was the lack of innovation and new products. Ron focused on this. He saw it as the only way to compete against companies like Glock and Beretta. Ron knew that competing against Glock and Beretta in the handgun market was an uphill battle. So Ron introduced semi-automatic rifles to SIG's product line. Glock and Beretta didn't make rifles.
So quick rewind. So we're talking about SIG almost going out of business in 2004.
Yep.
When did Glock come onto the market? They were like the 90s?
1988.
1988. Okay, so they were almost like in their heyday of
They were
converting
when
police
I was
departments
in, like,
and
middle
the
school,
strongest.
Yeah.
And they were real strong during the assault weapons ban with 40S and W.
Well, yeah, and we talked about how, SIG lost based off of like repair costs and stuff. And no. So
Yeah,
even
you're
further
right.
back,
You're right.
further
Okay.
back,
Yeah, sorry.
all the way to the 210 or whatever.
Yeah, the XM9 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, to the Beretta. But so, I mean, Glock kind of took that same market strategy, right? They came in and they said, we're going to undercut everybody. At least this is what I've heard.
Yeah, about right.
And then like repair costs are going to be covered, and that's how they really got their market share on police departments
Mike,
and everything.
funny that you mentioned this because there's a podcast.
Yes, we did an episode on Glock.
Episode what, 2?
2, correct.
Episode 2.
Wow, well, thanks for the invite. Like,
Yeah, well, all right, to summarize what you're talking about, Glock's production costs were so incredibly low. They could literally come
even
in.
Even today, it's ridiculous.
They pushed the cost of, by the 1990s, were able to push the cost of each gun below $100 a piece.
Yep.
I think it just broke $100 in the glass.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I heard word on the street 109.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And we're paying over $500 for it. That should make everybody angry.
Yeah, that's business though.
It is.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
It is.
Cost of production, you scale that up, you're printing out 1,000 barrels, you're printing out 1,000 slides. Like, it can really, I mean, the whole Henry Ford model.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, no, that's what he focused on, was cheap and easy to produce. Yeah.
Well, actually, Henry Ford said he could give away all of his cars and make just as much money on the replacement parts.
Yeah, I believe that. Yep.
Good old American car
Just
companies.
by batch orders.
We're going to talk a little bit about Glock and their attitude towards replacement parts in this podcast, because they did something that they don't they tried to make money off of something they don't recommend, and all of a sudden they were like, oh wait, we should do that. Anyways, it'll make sense later. Can you guess? Can you guess the first semi-automatic rifle SIG Sauer ever made in the U.S.? In the U.S.
Damn it.
You should know this one. It would surprise me. I'm sure you do, but it's not clicking.
Is it the SIG 556?
Nailed it. Knew it.
Really?
Knew
That was
it.
going to be my guess.
Knew it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can just say, if they brought back the 552 or 55 or
I know.
the 55 series,
Yeah, I know.
print that money.
Exactly.
It would sell out.
It killed. Yeah. It killed. The 5.56 was the first rifle they made in the U.S. It was based heavily off the 5.50, which was used by the Swiss Army in the 1980s and 1990s, but the 5.56 was a brand new design based off of that, and it was very new to the U.S. at the time. ARs weren't what they are today.
Oh, yeah, no. Not even.
And it quickly became extremely popular. They introduced it in 2003, right before they posted that terrible losses. And in 2005, SIG came out with the 5.56R as well, which stood for Russian, fired 7.62 by 39. And both of those rifles were a huge hit. And believe it or not, they were really popular with people who hunted deer with the 7.62 by 39. And so this is what kind of kicked off the semi-automatic rifle craze in the U.S. And yeah, this was before the advent of the AR-15s. They were basically just printing money every time they made those things.
Rewind on that too. I would recommend posting up photos of what they look like, because they're really, really cool designs. When you get into them, like their action and everything, and like I think they're piston. I don't remember if they're long stroke.
They are piston.
Correct.
No.
But like they have a really cool operating system. They look, everybody's so used to the AR look. I mean, literally on your coffee cup.
Oh yeah.
But like you look at it, you can go, wow, that's actually pretty cool. Very cool design. And
if they brought back those old models,
you can still get them, but they're on the used market, right?
Correct. So
However,
I talk about that.
however, you're pushing like for a 550 pre-ban, you're talking how many thousands? Like 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, there's not that many of them out there. They're hard to find because they were discontinued. Well, I'm not sure when they were discontinued. Anyways, so they were popular up until ARs became so cheap and high quality that their price and that odd configuration actually started to work against them.
Yeah, because they're like left-hand charging handle or something, like out front.
Well, one version was switchable.
Yeah.
Really?
There was an
I thought
5.56 SWAT or something like that.
Yeah, I remember the 5.56 SWAT, but I thought it was like almost like a 10-22 setup.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had thumb selector like a normal AR
Yeah,
or like a MP5 or whatever. But the charging handle was on the bolt like an AK. I thought. I think you're talking about the 5.51 or something.
Maybe.
Like that.
I swear there was one that had ejection port. Like if you open the bolt, you could see through the gun. But I could be wrong.
I
on
don't
that.
think so.
Maybe I'm thinking of the Beretta APX. Or
You
whatever
are.
It is.
That's
That's
what it is
because
because you can change ejectors.
That's another
or extractors
weirdo.
on the Beretta APX.
It's another weirdo semi-auto. Yeah. Anyways, so but by then SIG had already been producing like they went bad, or those started to become not cool when ARs became really popular. But by then SIG had already pivoted, so they were making the M400 and the MCX, or the MCX platform was just hitting the market, based heavily off that operating system. Yeah, but yeah, so they were producing the MCX, the M400, and so SIG discontinued the 5.56. But these guns and other ARs that followed are largely credited to saving SIG from bankruptcy and being bought out by one of their competitors. In fact, by 2007, they were back on their feet and grew to over 1,000 employees by 2016. So almost bankrupt by 2004, and 3 years later they were back on their feet because
Which
of
I
that.
remember the M400s were like tanks.
They're still great guns. I think they're highly underrated. People go to the the M&P Sports Ruger 5.56s for a little bit more. You can get an M400, and they're bulletproof. I'm telling you.
Yeah, they are. And they're piston, right?
Yeah. Well, no, the piston version is the 716.
Yes, you're right. You're right. The M400, but still, they're beefy uppers.
Yeah, absolutely. So in roughly 10 years, they went from 130 employees to 1,000 by 2016. And speaking of 2016, it's time to discuss how SIG gave Glock a taste of their own medicine and whooped their ass in the modular handgun system, or MHS contract is what I'll call it. So first, before we jump into this, let's talk about the P320s. What do you guys think about the P320s?
Gen 0, Gen 1?
I mean, I guess you could call them. I would call them Gen 1 and the P250 Gen 0.
I don't know. I still find the memes of them going off by themselves funny. But I mean, it's
that was an oversight in engineering.
No, it's almost like they didn't test it properly, which we'll talk about.
I mean, coming from the background that I work in now, someone will always find
A flaw.
the one thing you don't think about.
But at the same time, like that's
their
why you
job, too.
hire.
That's why our third party.
Yeah, that's what like testing, and you hire experts to come in to test that, to completely run it through and figure out what the failure points are. Like that's why you need that independent testing, because your people are gonna be like, no one's gonna be this stupid to do something with it, and the average user,
you know what, Mike, that makes sense, but it's the U.S. military. They don't have a lot of people or resources, so
no, not at all.
Right.
Anyways, we'll touch on that. Very well done. What do you think of the P320?
You have to make stuff nowadays where you look at the worst case scenarios, because like there is somebody.
Well, I mean,
that's going to
considering
do
there's like
something.
warnings on lawnmowers that say don't put your hands underneath.
Exactly.
That's the kind of mindset you have, or you have to have caution hot on coffee.
All right. Anyways,
Parallel.
back to the 320. Do you have anything to say about them?
I mean, I remember when it came out, I was like, okay, it's another Glock.
True.
So it's either, for me, once I'm set up on a gun, like holsters, mags, everything, I'm not going to change over, because, like if I have 20 Glock mags and, 6 holsters for a Glock, I'm not going to change over everything for a slightly better, if it's better in other people's opinions. Know what I mean? For me, it's...
Well, and there are a couple companies recently that have released guns that share the same footprint.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how they get around potential like copyright infringement
of Glock.
There are Glock derivatives.
Because Glock gave away their 3rd gen patent.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's where all these lookalikes are coming through.
That's where some of the they're a big brand, but like
Law's still the law. You don't keep up with the copyright, you lose your stuff.
well,
I think they just knowingly gave it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
They just didn't. They just
Which,
let
I
it
mean,
lapse.
if you're a true Glock fan, it's a Gen 2 or nothing.
Oh, God. Anyways.
Now, for the government stuff, did they make like a universal patent that like you have to fit like this molding, so like they wouldn't have to keep buying new stuff for like guns, kind of like how
No,
gas
that's,
state.
that's not how the government works, Topher.
Well, I know that, but
And
it was
Glock doesn't have any military, well, very small volume military contracts for niche groups.
Yeah.
I think SOCOM approves
I
the
was
Glock
gonna
19
say, I
in
think
some
it's Navy
cases.
SEAL, I think.
Well, anything under SOCOM, that could be PJs, Recon Marines.
That's true.
Anyways, so I personally think they're overrated. And I want to make this clear to some of the younger guys out there, okay? The 320 is not revolutionary by any means, although it was introduced in 2014 specifically for the MHS contract. It's been around for a long time in the form of the SIG P250.
I remember when the 250 came out, and I remember what is SIG doing with this ugly ass gun? They make 226s that look amazing.
Yeah.
220, they had their niche, and all of a sudden they came out with the 250. And was that hammer fire?
Yeah, hammer fire, double
And
action only.
The
I owned
hammer
one.
looked fucking ridiculous.
Yes.
It was like a rounded rod.
Correct. It just
I'm
looked like a
like,
slapper.
Yes,
Just a slapper.
and it was like rubber coated or whatever.
Oh, it was coated black. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? They're taking like 20 steps back.
Was the 250 like their entry into the polymer market?
That's what it was.
There was one before it, though.
Was there?
The double single action with a decocker. I forget what it was called. There was one right before it.
But I thought the 250 was their first big step into the
big jump.
Actually, now that you say that's what it was. Is they're now in the polymer market.
And once again, 2004, 2016. That's only what, like less than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But polymer technology has
skyrocketed.
It's almost like what's like the processor law?
It's pretty much night and day
of
difference.
like technology, like computer processing doubles every year.
Oh yeah, I believe that for
just
polymers.
look at like 3D
but like
printing.
same concept of the polymers back when Glock was making handguns in the 90s is like we laugh at that now compared to what we have in polymer technology.
We laugh at that. Gen 2 boy.
Hey, I'm just saying, the best example is 3D printing. I remember when 3D printing first came out, it was the shittiest material to make anything out of.
But now we have metal 3D printers that they make whole 1911s out of.
They print car parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, like at work, there's no layers anymore. It boggles my mind that 3D printing, you can't, because I remember first 3D printing, you could like peel the layers apart. Now it's like all one piece.
Yep.
And it's going to keep getting better.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like how NASA and all these other companies are trying to do for like cauterizing.
Yeah, well, people are
stuff.
Production 3D printing now.
Exactly.
But
Because you can 3D print stuff you can't machine.
yeah.
Oh yeah, you could print a block with a hole in the center of it.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Now, the P250, was it a bad gun?
So, all right, here's
Or
my
was
opinion
it
on
just
it.
ugly as fucking hell?
It was introduced in 2007, and the only difference is that the P250 was hammer fired versus the P320. All right, it was double action only, and the only real change they made was making it striker fired between the 250 and the 320. In fact, the cutout on the back of the slide on the 320 where the hammer would normally be is the exact same size and shape. Literally, somebody was like taking a poop and was like, "Oh, wait a second, what if we just made that striker fired?" And boom, even the grip modules and stuff are the same. You can switch out the barrels. I think the actual firing mechanism is different, but yeah, I'm telling you, like, it's not new, it's not revolutionary. I own two P320s. I've put both of them through their paces, and they are at best okay.
Well, I mean, it's the polymer striker fired market is straight up flooded.
Oh yeah, well now it is, but back then it was everybody who was anybody was trying to get their foot in their door.
Yeah, that was the new hotness.
Yep,
but
get it out there on the market.
Yep.
But now today, comparing the 320 versus everything today, everything's about the same. If that makes sense.
I agree. I have high hopes for the Echelon. I think the way that grip is molded and its modularity, I want to get my hands on one.
Now, how long do the contracts last?
Until they find something better.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I don't. But anyways,
I mean, it's from what I've read and heard, it's extremely hard to get new contracts for cartridge fire guns. If that makes sense, because we're pretty much at a plateau. I was going to say
NGSW program.
I was going to say, besides SIG's NGSW program.
Whoa, SIG wasn't the only person in there. I still
have
a soft spot in my heart for the The bullpup. I forget what company
You
made
mean
it.
the one where the suppressor looks like the end of a dick?
Whoa, hey.
It was like a ball. The ball. You know what I'm talking about. And you know I'm
Soldiers
right.
around the globe will be able to fire this more accurately.
Yes.
Hey, I didn't say everything in the design was perfect. There was definitely some things I might recommend swapping around, but hey, they don't pay me to comment from the peanut gallery. I'm
Okay.
just saying there's a little soft spot in my heart for a bullpup that made it almost all the way.
But I
Is that
mean,
your
as far as
Tavor?
like handguns
No,
goes,
it's a different company.
Yeah.
handguns technology, we're at the peak.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, for
I
sure.
mean, what else can we do? Like, we can only
Exactly.
cram so much powder, so much pressure.
We'll see. Somebody will come up with anything.
Hey, I'm just saying, until you get a actual machine pistol that's worth a damn.
Yeah.
I mean, Alien, I think, was the most.
Lugo or Laugo.
Yeah. That
Or the
and,
Hudson.
and still, that's not a novel design either.
It's just expensive.
It's expensive. They built upon a previous concept. There, I forget what patent it is.
I know what
There's
you're talking
videos
about.
out there that say, "Oh, well, this actually came out in the '90s or whatever," but it died.
Well, I mean, look at the Hudson. That was the hype.
All right,
And we're
shit
like
talking
13.
aside, let's talk about the XM17 and the modular handgun contract. All right, so this is a good example of how the government can take something simple and absolutely screw it up. I cover 6 big problems with the MHS contract here, and there are more than 6, but these were the most interesting. First off, the whole process took 13 years. A lot of people don't know that. It started in 2004 as the Future Handgun System. What's up?
There is a movie you should watch. I just watched it recently, and it goes into government contract and product development exactly like you're talking about. And it's based off a true story
Really?
of the Bradley fighting vehicle.
Oh, I heard about that.
It's called Pentagon Wars.
Yes, I have heard about that.
And it's free on YouTube right now.
Okay, I'll check that out. So anyways, the DoD and the SOCOM was involved back then, and the Army got sick of dealing with their BS and opted out of that process in 2006. What the hell happened between 2006 and 2013? I don't know. But in 2013, they decided to adopt the Air Force Protocol for Procurements, which I believe was used when they adopted the Beretta way back for the XM9. Using that framework, released the request for, it's called a request for product, which is known as an RFP. It's also known as a bid. I call it a bid in here because it's easier. So an RFP bid, same thing, for a new modular handgun. So yeah, long time. 2, in addition to taking just way too long, it was amended 6 times when it was released because they couldn't get it right after 13 years of doing who the hell knows.
That's like Star Citizen, you know? That
Yeah?
game's been in development
Oh, yeah.
forever.
Anyways, yeah,
It's coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Good point.
Well, I mean, the Bradley fighting vehicle,
yeah.
like 25 years of development.
Yeah.
And like I want to say it's in the upper teens of changes, of design changes.
Yeah,
Jeez.
it's insane what they went through. And 3, it was extremely complicated. An internal affairs review panel stated that the sheer number of pages in the procurement document was a staggering 351 pages. This is true. I've read the document. Not all 351 pages, but like 300 of them. Like it's an extremely long document. 4, it was entirely too expensive. Apparently, the procurement and testing process cost somewhere around $17 million, but I was not able to publicly verify this because the information is not public. The only point of reference I was able to find was from Army Chief of Staff General Mark Miley. To quote Mr. Miley, "We're not figuring out the next lunar landing here. This is a pistol. 2 years to test at $17 million? You give me $17 million on a credit card and I'll call Cabela's tonight and I'll have every soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine with a pistol for $17 million and I'll get a discount on a bulk buy." He's probably not wrong. He's probably not wrong.
Was that
Very fair.
was that like a
That's a legit quote.
no? I was saying, was that
100%.
like was that like a realistic depiction of what he sounded like?
I was going to say,
I don't know.
maybe a sound bite side by side.
Yeah, side by side. Because that was extremely stereotypical of
That's
what you
why I
think.
did it like that. That's why I did it
I'm
like
just
that.
saying,
Listen, I write the stories. That's how he talks. All right.
was he a southern white man?
Yeah.
I mean, he's in
He
the
had some
military.
moonshine.
Probably.
Missing
like
a couple
from, like-
teeth, you know?
Yeah, you could hear the banjo in the background on that.
Yeah. Anyways, the official cost of the whole program was never released, but this equates to over $1 million a year for 13 years to figure out that you like the feel of a P320 over a Glock. There's some foreshadowing there. 5, the modular part of the request made it unclear what calibers they really wanted. The military calculates ammo cost based off of each gun they order. right? So if you want a gun that can easily change calibers, you would better be clear about how much of each caliber you want. This goes double for supplying ammunition. How do you know how much ammo, as the supplier, you should supply of each caliber? This could get confusing and to calculate cost and profit for a supplier. And
Question.
Go ahead.
Why would you want to change calibers?
I have...
Especially on a handgun.
Especially,
what are you doing? Like, maybe they got when did the 5.7 come out? Like, maybe they got like wrapped up in over the 20 years this program went on. They got hyped up and like, oh, we can punch through our body armor with a 5.7.
When did the 5.7 come out? P90, right?
Yeah,
2007,
P90,
2008.
I don't know. I thought it was stupid when it came out.
I mean, you're not going to do that in the war
No,
zone, right?
no. It was on this show, Stargate SG-1. They had P90s.
Yeah,
When-
but
when-
like
when was that
those
show?
P90s didn't like release Stargate SG-1 didn't release P90 to the market.
No, I'm just saying no.
But it was in the show, which means it was
I see
around
so-
before that.
So yeah, around before that.
So it was
I
like
don't know.
early 2000s, I
You're
thought.
right, maybe 90s.
It was also on Battlefield.
Galactica.
No, the video game. Call of
Battlefield.
Duty, Modern Warfare.
That's
It was
true.
in the first Modern
Was it?
Warfare.
Dude,
It
maybe
was
it was
in the first
90s. It could have been 90s.
When they
That's what I'm-
released like
5.7's an old round. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Anyways, that could have been what they were looking for.
I have no
but
idea.
Either
Just
way,
a shot in the dark. Who knows?
like it was very difficult for some of the.
or they still had boomers. Must stop and power.
Yeah, no, that's probably the most accurate of anything for sure. But anyways,
When
they,
they have big bullets.
I'll spin them around if you hit them in the right shoulder. Yeah. Anyways, they couldn't calculate if it was profitable or not, right? So if you're two different ammunitions, like the suppliers are like, if I bid on this and then they screw me on the 40 cal or the 9mm, I might be supporting a non-profitable contract. So, so a little bit.
and so maybe that paired into the whole 9mm versus 10mm versus people can't qualify with the 10mm, so maybe we'll do the 40 cal.
Yeah.
And then there were still people like, well, we like the 45 because big bullet. Big bullet goes slow.
Big hole bad.
Big
yeah.
hole bad.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good point. You're probably right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things. And was it 16 years? Is that like
13 years. Yeah.
How many people were still in their job? Like, how
I was
many
gonna
times
say-
did that change hands within the government?
I didn't think
I
about
was
that
gonna say,
either. Good point.
You
Yeah.
guys have to watch Pentagon Wars.
Okay, I'll watch
it's,
it.
what you guys are saying is scarily realistic.
Nice,
Because
nice.
like for the Bradley fighting vehicle, it's like, what if a tank comes at it? We need anti-tank missiles. What if this happens? We need, and it's like just a laundry list of stuff. And the poor officer goes to the design engineer and says,
They had too many people on the think tank and
Yep.
not enough
"Oh
people.
no!"
in,
And they're like,
the
and they're like,
built a
and they're
camel.
like, "Hey,
you know,
hey, a squad is 8 people. What if we got rid of half that squad? How much more stuff could we fit in to?"
So anyways, one of the two handguns that Glock submitted, a little bit of foreshadowing here, was a 40 cal. And you can't buy the gun today. I'll talk about it later. SIG submitted 2 guns, a full-size and a compact, both of them 9mm. That's the 320s. And finally, 6. The contract was single-sourced for both the ammunition and the firearms. This was uncommon and raised some concerns in the government. Most companies, or even people for that matter, found out during the pandemic that being single-sourced on any supply or componentry can open you up to shortages and high prices. Single source is not always a good plan. So I work in the oil industry, and I've seen this screw the American OEMs.
Well, I mean, I have a question. America has to have. So so there's nothing new in handgun technology, as far as the caliber goes, right? And I feel like for handguns, there's a reason why you want to shoot people with rifles. You know what I mean? The gap in firepower between handguns and rifles is so vast, so you have to be pushing like 44 mag territory.
yeah, to be even like equivalent. I mean, you look at some of those old studies by police departments on like the quote unquote stopping power, or like how many rounds it took before that person was no longer a threat. And like 44, 357,
But
you're looking at like 2.5 rounds on average to like make somebody stop what they're
But
doing.
I mean, you're talking like a heavy bullet moving hella fast.
yes, yeah.
And I guess the 5.7 was an attempt. Would be a
that round
think-
is useless.
think as
Utterly
like-
useless.
well, no, I mean, like think
It's
about
trying
it.
to be too much.
That will trigger the comment
Well, no,
section
no,
right
but
there. It is
it's-
an utterly useless
It's
caliber.
someone attempting to break the gap between
Like a
handgun and
357.
rifle.
That is
Yeah.
some nerd in a basement doing math,
Hold on,
and it's
hold
like,
on.
watch
Let me
what I
finish.
can do.
Whoa,
Let me
hey,
finish.
I mean,
Useless.
you could make that argument about almost any wild Wildcat.
And I will.
cartridge.
And I will. If you're shooting 22 Hornet, fuck you. Okay. I'm serious. Like, stop.
So my thought is, there's well enough data to know that you're not going to get rifle-like velocity
no way.
out of a handgun.
No, 5-inch barrel, no way.
So the U.S. government should be like, listen, we have 1 billion 9mm rounds or 1 billion 45 rounds. Pick one and make a gun.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, yeah.
You know, it's not that hard. We have 2 of these calibers.
It's the government. It is that hard.
Pick one.
It is, yeah.
Anyways, due to these 6 reasons and a few more not mentioned here, some manufacturers just stepped away from the opportunity entirely. Even Senator John McCain, remember him, looked into this personally and recommended that they cancel the whole program.
Is he dead?
I don't know.
John McCain?
Yeah, I don't know if
I don't
he
think
died
so.
or not.
They didn't cancel it, though. All right, so how did SIG beat Glock?
I didn't know if he died.
I mean, a past president had some comments about him, but yeah.
Anyways. All right, so now we go into how SIG ended up beating Glock, which is a really, really interesting process. So the evaluation procedures...
I need to take a quick break.
All right, cool.
Barker.
I'm gonna... hurry up. All right, anyways, we're back. This is legit. We gotta take a small break. Technical difficulties. Anyways, so the evaluation procedures for the modular handgun contract were pretty well thought out, and it was openly stated several times that the price was not weighed heavily into the selection process. Remember, this was the whole thing. SIG bought the contract.
They say.
That's what they say.
That's what they say.
Which isn't it pretty much saying military spec just means lowest bidding?
Yeah, so
lowest bidding that meets the requirements.
we'll get into that.
Germany, they pick the third person. Like, you'll have a list of companies that bid, and they'll pick the third person.
So pretty much you're begging to be in that third spot for Germany.
Well, that's a common procurement practice in general.
Yeah.
My company does that with suppliers. Yeah, because you don't want the lowest, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, they weighted price. Price was rated 7 out of 9 factors of importance, with number 1 being the most important. So it was third from the last of importance to the military. But the rumors are not entirely true that SIG bought the contract with a super low price. That being said, and we'll get into it, there's no denying that SIG's price played a pretty big role in the decision. But it was not all of it. It wasn't all of it. I don't like that smile on your face.
Nothing.
You know something I don't. I don't like that. So before we get into the factors, it's important that I say something about what Glock submitted. We all know that SIG submitted, or what SIG submitted because they won, right? But Glock actually submitted 2 guns for
Didn't they
testing.
submit the 17M?
Okay, so it's actually called the 19 MHS was the actual designation.
And it has some ghetto-ass sheet metal safety, doesn't it?
Ooh, we're going to get into that, and that's so sweet. Good call. It was basically a 19X with a safety. That's exactly what it was. But did you know?
Was that safety a military requirement?
Yes, it was. Oh, yeah. So we'll get into that, too. Did you know that Glock also submitted a second gun that you can't buy? It's called a G23 MHS. It's in 40 cal. And to my knowledge, there's no G23X. There is no configuration like that you can go out and buy. You could convert maybe, but I don't think you can go out and buy that. But who would want a 40 cal version of the 19X?
Well, I remember, what was it? Before this, wait, in this timeline, well, who was I watching?
The timeline. Are we talking about like the whole conspiracy
No,
Berenstein Bears
no.
timeline? Like what?
No, like
what are we?
the whole like modern combat handgun, whatever the procurement program's called.
MHS.
They had another one trying to find if anything new had came out, where thumb safeties were mandatory, and someone asked Glock if they were going to put thumb safeties on it, and they said, "No, we're just going to convince them that they're not needed."
Okay, all right. So I want to talk. I will give you some foreshadowing because that's important. I did a ton of research, federal documents, military documents. None of it was redacted information except for the part around Glock's safety. And I have the quote here.
Whoa.
It's the most mysterious thing I've ever read. But yeah. So anyways, this didn't make a lot of sense to me as both guns were the exact same size. So Glock's guns were identical footprints, exact same size, not a compact, not a full size, nothing. They were just different calibers. I believe this was because Glock was trying to show that their design was modular. So here's where I have an issue with this. What is modular? Do you consider the ability to change the calibers modular? Like a G19 is modular because it can be changed to 40 cal. And 2, before we get into this, has Glock ever advertised that or even recommended that you do that? Does Glock offer caliber conversion kits?
I have a converted Glock 35 converted to 9mm.
I have a 23 converted to 9mm.
And tell you what.
But are these all like aftermarket parts?
They're all, well, no. It's like certain cars, you know, like if you have a 97 to 2000, say F-150, you can swap parts between those years and models, and they pretty much work.
Yeah.
Glocks are the same way.
Okay. But they don't, manufacturing wise, they don't recommend it. Like the manufacturer doesn't specifically give guidance to do so.
But
I mean, like a Ford would not tell you you can't put a salvage head on your engine. But if you call Glock and say, should I convert my Glock 19 to 40 cal? They'd say, no, buy a 23.
Yes.
What do you consider modular? I want your definition of modularity. Is it to change the grip, change the trigger, change the barrel? What's modular?
How many, like, you want to do as many changes as you can on the gun. So if it's just one change, it's not that much.
That's what I say.
So you're trying to find something that you can adapt, bring so much in to adapt
of course,
so fast.
my question is,
Nailed it.
how modular do you want? It's a fucking handgun.
Well, according to the military the requirements, they wanted you to be able to change things like trigger position, stuff like that. So I would consider Glock's handguns not modular.
So in my mind, you're going to have two types of people in the military. You're going to have someone that runs the gun as issued in box. Then you're going to have the complete other side of the coin that does everything they can to the max to have a pretty much race gun.
Yeah.
And as far as in between, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, like you can see that in police departments.
Yes.
You run into police officers who are gun guys or gun women, and they're at the range, they're shooting, and they're like, "Hey, like this is my standard issue, but I have all these upgrades in it."
Yeah.
And then you run into the cop who's like, "This is
running the stainless.
This is my 38 special from
Well, no.
1960, and I haven't even
you'll have the
unloaded
guy-
the chamber."
This is my Ruger Glock 17. Yeah.
No, you know the guy who's still running the third gen 5900 series from Smith. That's hammer fired. They're tanks of handguns.
I know you like those things. I
have one. They're tanks.
Yeah.
But
Anyways.
it's come so far.
But the bad thing about that is the more modular you make it, the more
Opportunity to fuck it up is.
exactly.
Well, and it's
Absolutely.
like, do you want like the average? I don't want to like speak bad on the military, but like, do you want the average grunt to be able to fuck around with their like trigger pull distance?
Nope.
And like, so for me, from and I didn't serve. I don't have any connection to the military, but to me, it makes the most sense that any service person without specialized training, so special ops and everything, since they get their own choice of weapon cache anyway, anybody in the military picks up a Glock or a P320, it is identical. You could pick it up in the Pentagon, you could pick it up overseas, you could pick it up at any base from any armorer, and it will handle and feel and be the exact same across the board.
Well,
but how do you like, and
Well,
then it
I
comes
mean-
into how do you make that serviceable to every single person in the
Correct.
military?
Well, I mean, for a
Consistency
while-
is simplicity, but
Well, I mean, for a while, I carried a Glock 34 with an RMR and a TLR1 on everyday carry.
why
And
the
then-
hell would you do that?
And all of a sudden, it's like, shit, I got to worry about battery life on the RMR. I got to worry about battery life on the TLR1.
How about the fact that you're carrying a slabber of a freaking handgun around every
6
day?
foot 270. I can hide a fucking MP5. Okay. Actually, I know a guy that's probably Owen's size or slightly smaller.
Yeah.
He
is
carried
this?
a Glock 17L
Oh my god.
with 2-inch comp on the end.
Hey, I'm just happy to
carry.
see you.
Whatever. man.
Yeah, appendix carry.
Appendix
RMR.
carry. Happy
Yeah.
to see you.
Now, my question is, during this class, I never saw him sit once, and I was dying to watch him try to sit.
God, okay. I guess not being able to see your dick when you look straight down has its advantages in some cases.
What do you mean?
I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you.
Hey, I'm saying I suck it in. I got full viz. Okay,
All right, hey, man, I've heard something about every 10 pounds is an inch or whatever. So
complete lie. Complete lie. Okay, I lost.
When I second,
At one point in my life, I lost 70 pounds. Did I have? Did it add 7 inches? No, it did not. Okay.
Okay, all right. I gotta stop you guys at the dick comments, just for the fucking listeners. All right. Anyways, I do not consider the Glock handgun to be modular, and I think Glock was trying to pass something off that the community spent time. Glock's community of owners spent time developing. I think they were like, "Oh crap, we know this can happen. Now we need to lean on it for this modularity type sell to the military."
So what do you mean the community was developing this?
I mean,
they
like,
just like crowdsource this?
No,
Lone
the Glock
Wolf-
owners were like, "Hey,
Yeah.
the Glock 23 extractor fits in the Glock 19 frame."
Right, like Lone Wolf does
okay,
conversion kits.
okay,
Glock
okay.
doesn't do conversion kits,
Okay.
but SIG does conversion kits for their 320s, right?
I
So
see what you're
it's
saying.
not something Glock supported, but when they needed to, they leaned on it. And I think that's
But
bullcrap.
still, how many
Okay.
people in a combat fighting source, a pistol should not be your main weapon?
It's
Zero.
to fight your way back to your main
main
weapon.
gun, yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
But how many people are like, "Oh, I need 40 cal for this mission. 9 mil won't."
If you need 40, if you think you
I'm
need
not
40
I'm
cal
not
for
an
anything,
operator. I have no idea.
Yeah,
Probably-
valid point, Mike. But typically it's like I should carry another mag of 5.56 so I don't have to go to my 40 cal.
yeah.
Anyways, do you guys want to know the factors? Now that we know what Glock submitted and our thoughts on it, what modularity really means, this is what... This is the, don't do You're going to give people bias, all right? So now that we know what Glock submitted, the evaluation factors are as follows. Factor number 1, technical evaluation. Subfactor 1, reliability. Subfactor 2, accuracy. This was isolated. They used a ransom rest in this part. Subfactor 3, characteristics of the projectile. So that's obviously, you shoot it in a ballistics gel. Look at how it expands.
If they're all 9
Which,
millimeter.
well, so is that
should all be the
like
same.
military FMJ, or did we start dabbling in hollow points at
We
this
started dabbling in specialty ammunition.
I
okay.
thought specialty ammunition was not allowed.
Nope.
for
No,
Geneva
we are.
Convention.
We didn't sign that part of the Geneva Convention or something.
Well,
Straight.
no.
Yes, America.
Well, you're both right and you're both wrong. So there's military police that
Yep.
can use hollow points. There's also like different units that can use hollow points. But if we're in an actual sanctioned war, we must use FMJ.
What, do we just-
did sign that part of the
Do we
contract.
just make everyone military police and say go after if you're hollow points?
That's a terrible
Here's
idea.
your rules of engagement. You're going to guard this building.
Yes.
You're going to take the building and then guard it. So we're good.
Anyways, subfactor 4 was joint warfighter ergonomics, right? And this was basically they evaluated the handgun on its ability to be adjusted for grip size, trigger position, magazine release. They had measurements listed in the bid that the handgun had to fall into. They also based the rating off the shooter's ability to operate the controls with only one hand in a specific grip. I think that's a great piece of advice.
Because, like, what happens if, like, you take shrapnel or something in your support hand?
Well, I mean-
then, like, how are you going to load it? If you're not comfortable to bash it off the surface to, get a new round in the chamber, then you're down. You're not in the fight.
You're in your sleeping bag in the mountains, rubbing one out. Someone kicks into your camp, and you got to be able to.
That's exactly.
It matters.
That's exactly the scenario.
Which
I go through it every night.
I will say, the Glock Gen 2, Gen 3,
Yeah.
the most left-handed guns made.
Oh, right.
yeah,
Whoa.
for sure.
What the percentage of the population that's left-handed?
No, I'm just saying, I hate ambidextrous slide releases.
Okay.
Really?
They're useless.
You're a lefty.
Because the problem right-handed people have with Glocks is when they shoot them, the slide doesn't lock back.
Well,
Guess who doesn't have that problem?
That's an operator
Lefties.
problem.
Lefties.
Good point. Okay. I didn't think about
And
that.
and guess how righties have a problem releasing the magazine on a one-sided magazine release? Guess who doesn't have that problem?
Lefties.
Lefties.
Good point.
I don't have a
Because you
single.
use your finger instead of your thumb?
I just use my trigger finger. instead of
Well,
my
so
thumb.
isn't that a boon to ambidextrous controls, though? Because then a righty could learn to use their, like, firing.
That's not my problem.
Okay.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Anyways, that's some extreme hand-to-hand racism right there. Okay, we're not gonna get into
Not my
that.
problem. I'm saying Glock made the most left-handed pistol before they came out with this goddamn ambidextrous bullshit.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I can tell Barker's had lots of whiskey. Anyways, factor 2. This was other. All right. So early warfighter acceptance, which is like how everyone liked the way it shot, how they liked reloads, trigger pulls, sight ability, usable of the sights. They collected this data through a questionnaire. And then the subfactor 2 was reliability of the compact handgun. So those are the first two factors. Those are the most important ones.
I thought you said Glock didn't submit a compact?
That is a great point.
Oh,
I
okay.
love how observable you are because
Okay.
the compact evaluation was not rated.
Oh, that's some bullshit.
Keep that in
That's
mind.
some
Yeah. Keep
bullshit.
that in mind.
Let's make a rubric and then not follow it.
Oh my god, dude! You just blew the entire episode.
Hey, I'm
it
saying-
gets wild. It gets
I'm
wild.
saying you gotta give Glock credit for reading the requirement. Be like,
Oh.
they don't know considering this, so
Dude.
we're just not gonna do it.
They're
No,
more
no, no,
like
no, no, no.
guidelines anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll give you guys some foreshadowing. Glock sued over a lot of things,
Yeah.
and one of them was because they did read every freaking word. And remember,
Wow.
351 pages written over 13 years. People forget things.
Yep.
Anyways, factor number 3, written technical. All right, so this was about how it operated, parts commonality, caliber, configuration ability. Basically, a written report on the operation and capabilities of the handgun itself.
So a user manual?
But you
pretty
have
much,
to,
Okay.
pretty much. But like, okay,
a
what,
little bit advanced.
What
like,
can we do with this?
Yeah.
That's what it was.
yeah, but
Shoot people.
like, isn't that every
Well,
contract?
you know, like if I was a Glock, I'd be like, hammer mode,
And
pry bar mode.
okay. Anyways, factor.
Parker, we're the fun side of the table. It's okay.
Yeah, why did I put those two over there? Let's just split them up, dude. Anyways, all right, and factor 4 was license rights. This is important, all right? So they wanted license rights to the ammunition, handgun, and the accessories. Basically, it means the winner can't change or modify things without the military's permission. It also covers technical data, such as failure data, safety data, and reports regarding to operation. The military does not want anything done in a black box. They want to work side by side with the winner, and they want access to all the data, good and bad.
So
Don't you have to do that already now? I mean, from what my friend says, like they have to give a package to the military whenever stuff gets finished.
So my question is, why didn't like Glock go to Surefire and be like, hey, you want to own the military? Let's team up.
I'm not saying this is common, but I'm saying that that package you're talking about, this is the definitions of it.
Oh, okay.
That's exactly what that
So
was.
when they're talking about like sole source ammunition, did they like contractor with like Winchester or like?
You're a smart guy. You got to learn, like, dude. You are steps ahead of me.
So
here.
like,
Well, also-
and I'm just trying to put like all the puzzle pieces together, but like, I don't know Glock ammunition. So how are they going to?
okay, I gotta stop you right there.
I was going to say, like, foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Glock ammunition on the market,
So anyways,
2025.
Factor six, production and manufacturing. Subfactor 1, ammunition production.
Okay,
Factor
okay.
2, handgun production. Factor 3, quality management
Which
plan.
still goes back to my original point. They have probably 1 billion 9mm NATO rounds.
Yeah, it's like, why do we need to produce it?
Exactly. You're not breaking any barriers between handgun rounds and rifle rounds. It's all 9mm.
Correct. And then subfactor 4 was quality plan. How do you like manage that, and like program management plan? How they overlooked it. Number 7, price. We covered that. Remember, price not that important. Factor 8, past performance. So reputation. Who has that in the military?
Glock.
I think they're both even. 226, Mark 25.
Ow.
Well, so no. You have to think about the
Military.
age. You have to think about the time frame that this is occurring.
Valid point.
So
You mean
when
like
this
how-
program's going on, what Glock is in the military?
19, Glock 19.
No Glock is in the military,
Yeah.
and police does not matter.
They don't. The military doesn't care what cops are doing.
You're telling me that SOCOM has not approved the Glock 19 for use? Because I'm telling you, it's
Not
on that
when
list.
did this program start?
You're
Yeah,
right.
Yep.
yeah. Because
Yep.
think about it. The Glock wave came around 2012.
Mm-hmm.
2012, right around there, 2009, 2012 is when the Glock
job.
wave came in because it beat out MMPs. I remember that.
Yeah, good job. I
And-
didn't catch that.
and all of a sudden,
So
you know,
I mean, but like you have to think it's 16 years.
Yeah.
like that's
Things changed.
It's
Yeah.
almost 2
Who
decades.
was it?
Things
It's almost
changed.
2 decades.
it was Beretta and it was SIG that
Mm-hmm.
had the 226.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. You guys are great hosts. And Factor
I'm
9,
telling you,
small
Mike.
business participation.
Yeah,
Do you
Mike.
guys consider?
A team.
Nobody on the A team wears a shirt like that, bro. Anyways, small business participant. Button number 3, baby. Here we go.
I can't do that. I can't do that for the viewers.
Okay. Yes. Anyways, small business participation was Factor 9. Do you consider SIG or Glock small businesses?
No.
Glock,
neither.
Glock USA at the
multi-million-dollar
time. That's what I would have done. I would have came in right under the radar as small business.
If you look at their tax information, they're a small business. But you didn't hear that from me. Anyways, so how did they compare? All right, so this is how SIG and Glock compared in each one of these categories. Let me be clear. This report pertains to just Glock and SIG. There were other contestants in the running, such as CZ, Beretta, FN, but they were not seriously considered.
what was the
and
CZ?
The CZ?
offering?
I'll go over it.
Okay.
So they were not seriously considered and, well, frankly, didn't try to sue after they lost. So there isn't a lot of information on what they did right or wrong.
Is most of this information not from the military? It's from court cases?
It's from both.
Okay.
It's from both. There's a lot of third party that did investigation into it. Lucrative, right? Anyways, but luckily Glock is a sue loser, not a sore loser. So their dirty laundry is here for us to talk a bunch of shit about.
Now,
All right.
now
ahead.
did SIG like open up like another LLC since like for America to be considered a small business clause?
2007, they did that.
Since
So I don't think they're considered a small business anymore.
well,
they're not.
I mean, most of
Every
the
military contract.
they could probably put most of the money into the German business, and then when they do the
You're saying kind of like stack the deck.
absolutely,
Bro,
absolutely.
that's how Gaston Glock did it. He did that. That's why I said about the tax information.
yeah.
No, a lot of people went to jail over that, so not a good idea.
Hey,
The government wants their cut, and they'll get it.
Hey, but I'm saying, well, look at Glock today. Did it bite him in the butt? He's still not in jail.
He doesn't care. He's dating a 40-year-old woman at 93 and
Wait,
snorting
Glock
Viagra
is
every
still
morning.
around?
Mike,
Still
you
alive.
have to watch this podcast.
Yeah, watch that episode. It's pretty good.
Whoa.
We talk about dildo assassinations.
Yeah, we do talk about
What
it.
a way
Anyways,
to go. What a way to go.
he's still alive. But anyways,
So
so the other guns that were in the running was number one was the Beretta APX, which is an absolute gun, absolute joke. That gun is awful, and they have
I'm told it's actually a decent gun.
it's a brick. It's heavy, and the trigger's awful.
Well, I mean, as far as, I mean, you have to look at me and my recommendations for bathroom guns. If you put it in your bathroom cabinet and when you need a gun, you pull it out and you're like, I got you,
Okay.
motherfucker.
I mean, but like, why wouldn't you just use a Glock at that point?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a Glock. Everything, let's be honest, everything striker fire is compared to what?
A Glock.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
The
it is
Kleenex
it is-
of,
True.
it is
of
the
guns.
standard.
Pentel
of polymer
processor.
guns. Polymer
guns. That's
Clarify.
All right. So you said
Glock.
something about.
I'm saying Glock steel frame? Question mark? Are they coming out with
Oh my God, dude! You sound like a boomer. Don't do that.
I'm just saying.
Don't do that.
Canic did it.
Okay. Anyways, CZ. You talked about CZ.
Yep.
They threw in a PO7, PO9 variant.
I don't think I mentioned them by name, but
I thought you.
I think we said others.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyways, CZ was in there with a PO7, PO9 variant, and then pulled out at the last minute. They were double action only and had bobbed hammers.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Also stupid. Not sure where they were going.
Why
with that.
didn't they go with the P10F, or did that not come out yet?
I don't think it was out at that time. So FN made a variant called the FNS.
Yes, I've seen those.
It lost allegedly because it was not a variant of the FNS, which
Also-
lost because it was not a new design.
Also-
which stipulated in the contract.
it had to be brand
Had to
new.
be a new design.
Also,
Yes.
FNS.
how much new, right?
New
'cause,
for
like-
that contract.
Yeah, but like
Can I
So
say,
had
you
they
use-
had they had submitted that FNS to other contracts before?
Absolutely.
Oh, I did it.
Yep.
However,
Okay.
was that the FN gun that would fire when you hit it?
no. No.
I think it was.
The FNS? That's
The striker
their tried and
fire.
true striker.
No, that gun, Arizona State Troopers had an issue with it, and it showed them, like, they just, I'm very certain.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that.
It showed them with like a rubber mallet, and they just smacked it, and it would go off.
And then like the striker safety would just release.
yeah.
Oh,
or no,
wow.
I
it
do
wasn't.
remember something about this.
It wasn't the trigger. It was internal.
Yeah. So
And
like
they
the
did
striker
a-
safety or
Well,
whatever captures the striker.
The change became the FN or the 509.
That's what it was.
It became the 509.
Because there was a big I don't think there's a recall on them.
No, there isn't. I have one.
It beats a shake and bake Taurus.
Yep.
So
No, very true. Yeah.
Shaking-
a decocker that's not quite a decocker.
Can you imagine a nervous cop with a torch shaking real bad in the back? And like, oh God, oh God.
God. Anyways, yeah, the 509. I think I'm not a big fan of those guns, but that's what the 509 came from. Their them trying to get the
The
MHS
509
contract.
is the Belgian version of the Glock.
Okay, cool.
Let's be honest.
I'll give you that.
Everything is trying to be a Glock.
Speaking of overseas, Chris also threw in there. They tried to get it with their SDP,
The Sphinx.
Sphinx or SDP.
Supposedly,
wait.
BMT's
Chris, as in like the Chris Vector company.
KRISS.
Wow.
I remember-
They're great guns.
I
I didn't
remember
know
when
they had
that came
anything
out.
other than the Vector.
No, they
No.
have handguns.
Really?
They
Been around
had
for a
they
while.
had a handgun. B&T bought the designs off of them.
Correct.
And are coming out in the next year or so.
Correct. And then Smith & Wesson threw in their M&P, of course, which surprised me it didn't do better. And then a company called Deltonics Defense threw in a Hail Mary with an STX model, which looks like a 1911, but with like an extra chromosome. So I'm not really sure what they were going for with that gun.
Which, think about it, this was before the M&P 2.0.
Correct.
I would say
Correct.
a lot of people liked the 2.0 update.
Well, they put in the 2.0, and then when it didn't work, they went to the civilian market.
Really?
All the guns I just mentioned were submitted and then went to civilian.
Actually, now that you mentioned, I remember
Except for the Glocks.
and the CZ.
I remember a flood.
19X.
I remember a
Oh, okay.
flood of guns hitting the market that were new designs all of a sudden.
2017 year we graduated.
Yeah, and the 2.0 was there. The 19X was there.
Yep.
There's
The
a bunch of
F509 was there.
yeah, and it was just a bunch of new striker fire.
Absolutely, the new hotnesses,
okay.
even that stupid Beretta APX. Anyways, so here goes. To do this comparison, the Army used a super scientific rating scale from outstanding to unacceptable.
Is that verbatim?
This
super
is verbatim. This is no. I came up with super
Hold
science.
on. Is this scale on like the child's doctor where they're just faces? And they're like, how does this make you feel? And then like a smiley face. Oh my god.
What's your pain level? Like squinty face with a tear.
Yeah. Oh my god, I wish it's almost as bad. It goes by outstanding is the best, good is next, acceptable is in the middle, marginals underneath, and then unacceptable is the least. Could you imagine writing 351 pages, doing all this work, sending in an email with this bid, this gun you designed, to getting an email back from the military saying we rated your contract as good?
No, hold on.
Like that would drive me insane.
That's not how they rated it.
Is it per
They have to do
category?
What?
They smile.
Oh, good. All right, so these were the 9. This is how they rated Glock versus SIG for the 9 main sub-factors and regular factors. So we said factor 1 was technical, right? Glock was rated acceptable. SIG Sauer was rated good. So SIG Sauer did better. So Glock did better when it came to, well, actually, they did worse. So SIG Sauer did better when it came to the ergonomics, how it felt. And that's the most important factor. Glock actually did worse. So the team as a whole, like the way the 320s felt over the Glock.
I'll admit it's a fucking brick, but it does what you want.
That's like a sticky wicket though, right?
It is.
Every hand's different, right?
You can hold a gun in a gun store and it feels phenomenal. You take it to the range and it's dog shit in like recoil control.
Or even after 1,000 rounds, it's dog shit from round 0.
Correct.
Yeah. So
Correct.
so was it a purely subjective? This feels good in the
Yes.
most amount of soldiers' hands.
They handed out, so the team, they
And
handed
we
out
mentioned the
surveys.
accuracy was on a sled or whatever.
Correct.
Like so. Okay. This
So-
is,
so-
this
so I mean,
makes
like-
me so mad.
so I mean, like-
Accuracy was marginal for both.
What?
So that's second to
So
last.
I mean, like in my mind, the government has, like those gun show or gun store like grip things, like half the gun
Yeah.
sticking out, and you grab it and you're like, that feels really
Yeah,
good.
like
I
that's-
I imagine that for the military of like not even holding the gun, they just grab it and they're like,
Yeah,
I
because
need
like
that.
one thing that feels phenomenal in your hands, but as soon as you try to control recoil holding on to it, you're like, this is terrible.
But either way, that is the most heaviest weighted factor, was they liked the way the SIG felt and held in their hands and
That
operated.
needs to be like a multifaceted how it feels.
Trust
like
me.
it can't
I was
be.
gonna say,
They had measurements for each one, but the SIG won over the Glock.
But like
I
no.
hate-
Like you have to break it down in how it feels. How does it feel like static? How does it feel shooting? How does
Dynamic,
it feel?
yeah.
How does it feel-
How does it feel when it's wet?
I was
how
about
does
to
it
say
feel
that.
when your hand is dirty?
Yes.
So, okay, I
Gloves.
gotta stop you there. So they did have requirements for how it felt in the hand and the ability to use it with one hand, all that stuff
Yeah.
went into that, but they didn't do anything dynamic.
Yeah.
They didn't do any
Yeah.
test missions,
What happens,
nothing like that.
Like when you're covered in blood,
Okay.
or
Or
water,
gloves,
or
wearing gloves.
Oh, gloves, winter conditions.
yeah. So anyways,
however, that's where the
Man, they should hire us to do
Yeah,
this.
that's what I'm saying.
I cannot control either of them.
That's what I'm saying.
They're going
Mike is
off.
already 2 steps ahead.
That's
all
what I'm
right?
saying. The MP 2.0, there's texture rougher than hell.
That's okay. Some of us have man hands. It doesn't bother
No,
us.
I'm just saying.
Moving on. Moving
For
on.
gloves or blood,
Yeah, no,
2.0.
good point. So that's something you would want to test,
Yeah.
right? And we'll go into that. So bid factor 2, this was the early warfighter acceptance, so how it operated, all that stuff. Glock ended up winning over SIG. They were rated good. SIG was rated acceptable. Now, the compact handgun, not rated. They did not do the evaluation. Keep that in mind, all right?
Well, because Glock didn't submit one.
That's true, but SIG did.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't they evaluate it? Okay, I'll get into that. So written technical, they tied. License rights, Glock got marginal, SIG got outstanding. This makes sense. Glock is a pain in the ass, a very secretive company, and they're very cocky. So I could imagine them being difficult to work with the military. Factor 5, license rights for the handgun and ammunition. Glock got good, SIG Sauer got outstanding. So they got outstanding for the ammo.
So when we talk about license rights, like we're just talking about like, in a not propaganda promo video, but like in a promo video for like, oh, join the military, you know, you would see a soldier with a Glock pistol or a SIG pistol. Is that what we're talking about with license rights, or even so far as being able to use the SIG brand in military?
Good question.
So like that's like a whole nother like sticky wicket of lawyer like level that like way above like anything I am familiar with.
If my question, or to back this up, if SIG had outstanding on that, right? Does that have anything to do with the NGSW program?
We're way before that.
No, I'm just saying, do they take that into consideration that, hey, SIG pretty much said they don't want any licenses for the images of their guns that we use. And they're like, well, shit, all of a sudden we can use any gun we want from SIGs in any picture.
So I think it's deeper than that. So it's the ability to give the military the right to own information, right? So how much does the military own of the design? How much are they entitled to the information, right? So SIG could go in and make a change and not tell the military, and the military didn't want that. Military wanted to own the rights to those designs, right?
Okay.
And so
basically the blueprints.
Correct.
More
yeah,
or less.
Basically the design, right? So they got outstanding for both the ammunition and the handguns. This was a big deal because Glock doesn't make ammunition. So they were basically third-partying a deal with Winchester or Federal, right? And that didn't look very good in the military's eyes. So Glock got good and marginal, and SIG Sauer got outstanding and outstanding for both of them.
Which, to their defense, SIG does make good ammo, from what I've heard.
Absolutely. And then so you would think Glock makes really good guns, right? So for Factor 6, production and manufacturing, so that was ammunition production, handgun production, quality management, and the production plan itself, Glock beat them again. They got outstanding, Glock got good.
Wait, no. SIG beat them again.
SIG beat them again. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, SIG beat them again by getting outstanding, and Glock got good. So again, some things surprised me there, as far as like their production facilities, etc. And then of course price. So Glock had a price of $272 million. SIG came in at $169.
So that's a huge.
That was a difference of
That's a huge
$102 million.
Yeah,
However, the question is, when you're talking tax dollars, how much of a difference is that really?
I don't know.
As far as percentage, that's something I don't know about.
That's a good point, but that's still a
Because you're
substantial
talking
amount of money.
trillions of dollars. How much is a drop in the bucket of $100 million?
Well, they need that $100 million for the Black Project UFO projects out in Area 51. So
No, not Area 51. SN2 or whatever.
S4.
Or S4, yes.
The thing is, could
Sorry,
they take that?
I was half asleep last night.
Could they take that
totally
extra
asleep. I
money
heard you snoring.
and put it to a project they really want to put it to?
Yeah, or those guys get bonuses based off of what they save. I'm so proud of both of you guys.
Is that not Sir Michael?
Yeah, it's fair.
You want more?
No, I'm fine.
All right, so anyways, past performance, right? So the reputation, they both tied. And, of course, small business participation, they both tied because they're not small businesses. So here's how the selection process was supposed to work. That was the first stage that we just went through.
So I have a question.
Yeah?
Conspiracy theory. Why didn't Glock start a new business? That would have been small business.
They would have known.
And it would have been like, technically, Glock just giving them piping and handguns.
They would have known. Anyways, so this process. Sorry,
Now, how many small businesses applied for that?
That STX, the 1911 with the extra chromosome, that was a small business.
So just one out
But
of.
I mean, if that's all they got going for them, and it's a shit design.
That's all they had going for them.
Yeah.
All right, so this design or this process was designed to take stage 1 that we just went through and was designed to narrow it down to up to 3. Keep that in mind. It's up to 3. Clearly, in the bid, the first process was to award a potential contract of up to 3 suppliers. Not exactly 3. Not 2, not 1, and maybe 0. But could have been any number between 0 and 3. Keep that in mind. Now, remember, they started stage 1 with several competitors and were supposed to select up to 3 competitors to go to the second stage of evaluation. Stage 2 testing was far more technical and focused heavily on reliability and service life. It also evaluated accuracy again, but using the shooter in the loop method, consisting of actual courses of fire and being fired from, rather than being fired from a ransom rest. Word on the street, this accuracy evaluation was Mozambique drills. 2 to the chest, 1 to the head, or failure drills.
It sounds like a shit show.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I was gonna ask, what's their validation method on the shooter drills, right?
Oh, I'll go over that in a little bit.
Well, because
It's pretty simple.
as a pure engineer,
But do you just hand it to anybody? Like you just throw straws out
Just
and
like you said.
who wants to come shoot a gun?
just like you said,
You know
or
what?
the cook
do you
or the janitor comes up
Canada.
versus like the Delta
That
Force or
goddamn
Navy
potato peeler somehow got the longest straw.
Dude, that reminds me of Tropic Thunder when he was like, "What did you do?" And he was like, "Sanitation." You were in fucking garbage, man. Anyway, so we'll go over.
Okay,
all
okay.
that.
That's where I hate, because numbers don't lie. If you put it in a ransom rest, whatever gun wins, knowingly scientifically.
Yeah.
Yes.
As soon as you put it, because the human is the greatest inaccuracy.
It's the limiting factor of
Yes.
accuracy
Yes.
behind any
And-
handgun.
yes.
Any gun.
Any gun. Yeah,
Yeah.
good point.
You know what I mean? So as far as
We are the lowest limiting factor in accuracy.
Absolutely
Or,
correct.
well, I guess we are the highest chance of
missing.
issues occurring.
yes,
The mechanical accuracy is far above what a human can do.
absolutely
So
true.
now
that's where it comes down to, like, okay, you qualify people.
now that being said, there's something to say about like 1911s versus everything else.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you there because
Because-
that we're not doing that.
no,
Please,
no,
That's a hot take.
Because think
the
about it.
comment section just flipped out. Please,
As
don't
far
do
as
that.
like shootability,
dude.
for under 5 rounds, it's
Dude.
hard to beat a 1911.
I don't know.
Okay, guys, shut up. Stop. Seriously, you guys won't stop, please. All right. Anyways,
Anyway, Mike,
listen, you guys. Reliability testing. Okay.
Yep.
The reliability testing for this was far more difficult in stage 2. It was required each gun to fire a staggering 35,000 rounds per gun. In contrast to the initial reliability testing of only 12,000 rounds. Please keep that.
Good God.
Please keep that in mind. It was
What?
only 12,000 rounds
Only?
for the full size gun.
Only 12,000.
Anyways, so they did only 12,000 rounds. That's not that much considered the 35,000 they were supposed to be put through. The second stage also included a reevaluation of license rights for ammunition, handgun, and accessories, and Factor 5 other characteristics. This is where they did physical dimensions, material reliability in extreme conditions, magazine characteristics in extreme conditions, maintainability on a field level. So can you go out there and clean this in the field versus being clean in an armorer's shop, right? Ammunition characteristics again, and joint concept of operations, which was how it worked under adverse conditions in training exercises. All right, so that was stage 2. Stage 1 was going to limit down to 3, then they were going to put them all through stage 2. All right, and lastly, they looked at price again. So between this phase and first phase, they were allowed to adjust their license agreements and pricing based off of feedback from the Army. None of this testing ever happened.
They didn't do phase 2 at all?
They didn't do phase 2 at all. The
Whoa,
Army
that's a big faux pas.
The Army loved the SIG and their proposal so much they skipped the second stage of testing and the compact handgun evaluation altogether.
Well, to be fair, Glock didn't have a compact.
yes,
hey,
correct.
hey, can I just say, if Glock would have, instead of doing what did they do, 17?
The 19 basically
H,
19
whatever.
MHS and 23 MHS.
If they would have done a 34 and a 19,
Yeah.
they probably would have won.
Okay. That's
Facts.
conjecture
Facts.
purely. I think Glock's point was if they tested him out to 35,000 round, the Glock would have won. But anyways, they definitely had a so yeah, they just awarded this contract to SIG, and Glock proceeded to absolutely lose their minds.
Well, after 16 years, I would too.
Correct. They
Yeah.
had a problem with this.
After
several
they
problems.
retrofitted a fucking safety on a gun that doesn't need one.
Yeah. So does this sound fair to you guys?
No.
It
I
does-
mean,
it's not
that's
I mean,
fair at
after all,
No.
if Glock would have won,
not
fair.
with the stated original contract
Correct.
agreements, not at all.
Correct.
I mean, like, and
However,
I'm not a big like Glock fanboy. I think they feel like 2x4s, but that's just my opinion.
however,
And I know Barker's probably
Comment
gonna
section triggered again.
well, here we go. All I'm going to say is you have to consider you're going for the U.S. government, so your opinion doesn't matter for shit.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyways,
But
so
from like a contract perspective,
exactly.
absolutely not. You can't lay
And-
that groundwork out and then just not do
And,
it.
Yes,
and,
yes,
and thinking
absolutely.
about it, if you can win a lawsuit against the U.S. government, that's
That's-
a double win.
that's
Yeah.
why so many people were involved in the investigation. So Glock contested that the Army violated their terms of the bid by only selecting one competitor and skipping stage 2 testing. Glock believed that the way the testing was set up and the way the bid was written mandated that at least 2 competitors had to be selected to compete in stage 2. I agree with Glock on this. If it took you guys 13 years and $17 million to come up with this, just skipping half of it, what do you think?
Did they get any funding like beforehand in that like time?
No,
No.
it's all
These companies all pocket
That
like,
was all
out
R&D?
of pocket.
That was
Absolutely.
all R&D.
yeah. That's all in the company to try to win the U.S. government's
Wow.
Yeah, you know how the government got around this? They went with, well, it wasn't explicitly stated.
Okay,
Wow.
that's some
bid. Now,
BS.
that being said, I don't want to say conspiracies, but I know I've watched a bunch of interviews about the new SIG and what's it?
NGSW.
NGSW.
Mhm.
And there's a ton of former military people working for SIG.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, am I connecting 2 and 2, saying it equals 4
Well,
about the military testing?
Yeah.
I don't want to say that.
So
I just want to say possibility.
But it also could be they are using the, I don't want to say bloat of the government and their expertise of managing it to give SIG an insider level,
Yeah.
That's true.
leg up.
There's
It's
some- yeah.
it's not necessarily like, oh, I'm chummy with Joe Blow and he works at SIG now, which I'm sure there's that without like any industry. There's that, but you hire ex-military people, you bring them in, and they say, hey, I know how this shit works behind closed doors because that's what I was like
You pay
a
for
part
experience.
of.
You pay for experience.
pay for
Yeah.
experience.
Same thing in the oil industry. Absolutely.
Instead of just going with the one they should have chose.
Did they have like location in effect? Because like maybe some of SIG's places were closer to bases.
I don't think so. I think they're pretty much equidistant because Glock's in Georgia, SIG's in Connecticut.
Connecticut. Yeah, I don't think there's anything.
You know what I mean? They're both East Coast, they're both North and South.
Correct.
Okay.
So anyways, they contested that stage 2 testing must be completed, which I think is legit. They believe that only completing stage 1 did not accurately evaluate the reliability or performance of SIG's full size, and most notably the compact handgun. The compact handgun that they approved only had 1,500 rounds put through it. That's nothing, dude. You should be
Well,
putting at least that through a gun
honestly-
before you carry it.
Honestly, a true test for this is people are going to be pissed off about this.
Yeah, I'm
a true
excited.
test would be you like load it and then you leave it in a drawer for like 5 years.
Anyways, apparently after completing the 1,500 rounds, the Army realized that this wasn't a valid test and decided to throw all the data out and non-rate it, which is
The
even stupider.
subcompact?
Yeah, the
Okay.
subcompact, yeah. So I understand Glock's complaint here as well. 1,500 rounds is nothing, and it's a little suspicious.
Which, I
to me.
mean, I guess
Yeah,
this
a
doesn't
little
sound bad.
Suspicious.
Good on SIG for thinking the government would be lazy and cheap.
All right, so Glock also called the Army out on some math errors, and the investigating body, the GAO, Government Accountability Office again, actually agreed with Glock on this too, but even though Glock was right, the actual difference it made in SIG's overall price was laughable compared to how high Glock's overall price was. Glock,
Wait. I thought Glock was lowest.
Glock was high.
Oh no, that's right. Because
100 million.
SIG
Way
came.
high.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
I got 'em flipped
102
around.
million, but Glock found out that the Army miscalculated the number of spare parts it would need to support both the compact and full-size guns from SIG. They knew this because the same math was applied to Glock's single gun solution that used interchangeable parts, whatever. Glock found the difference to be $1.6 million, but this made Glock still $101 million more than SIG. One investigating firm looked into Glock's claims and said, "This is true, but it is entirely unreasonable to believe this would made any significant difference." No shit.
Well, I mean, it's down to, like when you give a presentation to someone above you in management or whatever,
Yeah.
you have to dumb it down, and all they see is numbers.
Yeah.
All they see is the first numbers you present, and that's all they think about.
Well, it didn't work because the second number was so much bigger than the first number. Nobody cared. And the last argument I'll cover will be steeped in mystery forever. There was clearly a major problem with Glock's safety. Glock thought this problem with perfection was overemphasized, and a paragraph straight from the report read the following: with regard to the Joint Warfighter Ergonomics subfactor, the Army assigned Glock's proposal a weakness after redacted, which could result in a redacted. In addition, during testing under the early warfighter acceptance subfactor, the Glock handgun redacted was redacted. Competitors were informed that the Army would evaluate the ability of the user to operate the safety as part of the Joint Warfighter Ergonomics subfactor. The solicitation also highlighted the overall safety was a priority, noting that proposals could be disqualified for safety issues as designed by the agency testers. The redacted on the handgun was reasonably encompassed by the factors disclosed by Glock. Furthermore, redacted, we do not link that the Army placed any undue emphasis on the safety in the evaluation. This protest ground is denied. It sounds like something went wrong with the safety on the handgun.
And it didn't work.
Yes, it didn't work, and Glock was so nervous about perfection being threatened, they had all the information pulled out. That's the only redacted information I found in the entire report. That's it.
Which I would say that's a pretty shitty thing because I guess your basic gun safety rules take precedent over a safety of a gun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
However, when something says it won't work, it better not work. I'm sorry, did I say that wrong?
It sounds like it.
If you have the safety on, it better be fucking on.
Absolutely.
And it better be, it's just like lockout, tag out for industry.
Glock
right?
doesn't make guns with safeties. It would make sense that they would screw it up.
Yes.
It really was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that means the safety failed, which is worse than not having a safety.
Yes.
Well, the joke's on them because the 320s fire on their own anyways. So
If I was Glock, I'd be
so
bitching up a
mad.
storm.
So mad. All right, so to summarize, in the Army's eyes, not necessarily mine, SIG had the better handgun technically, the better ammunition manufacturing plan and abilities, and ridiculously better price. The Army loved SIG's offer so much they didn't even have to compare it in the most difficult and some would argue the most important part of the testing, and Glock felt like they got ripped off. Thoughts?
That's fair.
I think that's
100%
fair.
100%
100% fair.
Well, I mean,
Although the only thing that Glock dropped the ball on is submitting a subcompact.
Correct.
Like that's the only thing you can really say that they fell through.
Well, it's not modular.
well, I mean,
okay, so modularity and a subcompact option.
Well, there's safety
or
subs,
compact.
and they didn't make ammo. If you look at it objectively,
Yeah.
SIG had the perfect gun
However,
for the contract.
if Glock was smart, they would have submitted the same gun for the subcompact.
If they were smart, they would have done 19 and 26 or 17 and 19.
No, it would have been 19, 19, 19. If that's what they wanted, could they do the 23, 19?
Yeah. So,
You know,
so the Army
in my
said,
mind, it would have been 34, 19.
well, the Army said they would take a one-gun solution if it was modular.
Oh, 17.
17, that's what I would have done. 17 with the ability to switch to a 19 frame, something like that. But yeah, I think the SIG won because they had the better offer for what the military wanted, plain as day. And they were so much cheaper. They were
However-
like, screw it, we'll take it now.
Let me say the ammunition requirements are bullshit.
Why?
Because it's...
Well, they didn't even state what they were.
Well, no, because... Well, yeah,
Good.
that and it's...
Just give us
There's-
something that can do multiple things. It's like, what the
Exactly.
fuck do you want?
I would say...
Like
I would
a
say,
recoil spring for a 45 ACP is not anywhere near remotely the same as a recoil spring for a 9mm.
The two weights in Glocks that are different is anything 40 cal, anything 9. That's it.
That's true, but I'm saying... I would say make sure it functions with hollow points, full metal, make sure it functions with everything.
They did all
Because
that.
then I would go ammo third party.
Well,
Because then you can tailor your ammo to whatever you want.
what's more expensive? That's what got Glocks. So I didn't write it because I had to make this short, and thank God I did. So you want to know what screwed over Glock's? You guys are dicks. You want to know what screwed over Glock's ammunition proposal? The blank ammunition was too expensive.
Wait, what?
It was the blanks that disqualified them. That's
Really?
written officially in the report. Yeah.
Wow.
So
How
and
much
the-
were they charging for blanks?
I didn't find that. I couldn't even
Okay.
find the cost per handgun. That's classified too. I've heard in some cases it's $125 a gun, but whatever. So anyways, that brings us up to today. SIG Sauer has come a long way since its humble beginnings as a train car manufacturer. SIG faced its share of challenges over the years, but always managed to overcome them. Today, SIG Sauer is one of the largest firearms manufacturers in the
Would you
world.
say they've overcome guns that shoot themselves when you drop at the right angle?
And its products are used by law enforcement and militaries around the globe. As SIG Sauer CEO Ron Cohen once said, "We are a company that is built on innovation and quality. We are consistently developing new products to meet the needs of our customers, and we use only the highest quality materials and manufacturing processes. We are proud of our products, and we are confident they will continue to serve our customers well for many years to come." Closing questions. Do you think that SIG would have still won the MHS contract if they had to go through the second stage of testing? That's the 35,000 rounds. That's the material testing, training exercises. Do you think it still would have been the 320 they picked?
What were the stipulations on the 35,000? Is that like at some point you have to replace the recoil springs?
No, you don't.
It was 95. It had to be 95% reliable.
Straight through?
Straight through. So they had to establish a
Which-
95% confidence interval.
Which Beretta did with the 92 back in the day.
Trust me, a lot of people did.
Yeah.
Like it's not impossible to reach, but they never figured out if either guns could do it.
Yeah.
So your official thoughts on that, Mike?
Oh man, I don't know. I think the Glock, they shot themselves in the foot by not submitting verbatim what the military wanted.
I agree.
And it really comes down to the military is super nitpicky when you submit things to them. And I mean, this is the NGSW is the most recent thing I followed, which is really cool. But, you know, there were people who were disqualified because they didn't meet. Like we want a 31-inch overall length, and somebody submitted a 31 point, 1.5, and the military is like, nope, you didn't meet our requirements, you're out, and like it's that cutthroat.
That's what I think. I think Glock did not follow exactly what they wanted and was trying to squeeze a round hole into a round peg into a square hole.
Well,
square peg into a round hole.
I was gonna say the round will fit. The round will fit.
Valid point. I'm only an engineer. I should know that. Parker, your thoughts?
My thoughts are, well, it was. I remember when this happened. It was like Gen 5 or Gen 4 Glock.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So you weren't having your hands cut apart by the Gen 3.
Correct. Snake bites.
Yeah, I think the Glock would have came. Now I'm a Glock fan.
Bias.
But I mean, as far as overall, I've shot a 320.
Mm-hmm.
And a Glock is just a simpler gun.
I would say
it's
fair.
a gun for like the dumb user. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's what he built it around. That's what he built it around.
Way to call our U.S. military personnel.
But I mean,
dumb.
That's why he buys it.
Oh yeah, but I mean, as far as like, you want a pure mechanical advice that does no thinking.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's only like two things that can go wrong.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yes.
Yep.
Amen to that.
And
Stolfer, do you think they would have picked it?
You should have done stage 2 because you're giving these guns to people that are fighting on the lines. Yeah. So like you would want to do that testing just for the reliability of those guns for those key situations when they're doing, dogfighting or whatever,
They're jumping on airplanes and
when they're literally fighting dogs.
But like,
whoa, hold on, ATF, come on now.
Out in like the field, because you don't want something to go bad.
Skirmishes.
You got to think the worst possible situation is going to happen, and you not doing that testing will not create red flags.
Well, shit. Speak of that sniper, like calling like Beretta 50 cal. They literally called customer support while they were in Afghanistan.
They're Beretta.
The
not
Beretta 50
Beretta,
cal.
Barrett.
The Barrett. Sorry.
Barrett,
Yeah. Not the old school machine gun.
Okay. All right, I'm putting the kibosh on this.
Cut him out.
Anyways, I personally think that P320 would have lost. I think the Glock would have kicked their butt in all aspects of Stage 2, but it never happened. So, anyways, my name's Owen Walski. This has been one hell of an episode. We appreciate you being here, listening, watching, whatever it might be. Please send us an email if you want to see a different topic discussed. If you want to tell Barker that he's got a great shirt on, whatever you got to do, feel free to reach out. Thanks for joining us here today on this episode of the Rifle Media Podcast. Have a good one.
Hey, comment if Owen should have an Instagram.
I am definitely shutting that.